and welcome to Roundtable Live for August 25th, 2017. What's up?
Click through the
Mathas,
screenshot
we're
and
in
notice.
like, Bear's like, we're doing the intro.
Yeah, he just starts talking about some shit on
hey, let me
Steam.
broach a big topic of conversation.
Broach a big topic conversation.
Well, you have 30 seconds during the intro, and you started like 20 seconds in.
Normally, you guys respect the 30 seconds pre-intro. You're just silently staring at the screens, waiting for the show to begin. I appreciate that, but you
Not today,
just
man.
not today.
I was just saying the character model doesn't move if you go from screenshot to screenshot. It's in the same fucking position.
You
every
are
time.
correct, yeah.
It's really important. I'm glad you got that out there before the show began.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to before the show began, but now it's the show topic.
Hey, everybody.
Time moves.
That's right. Welcome to Roundtable Live for August 25th, 2017. I'm BaerTaffy, joined by RockLeeSmile, MathasGames, Northernlion. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Every bunny. That's adorable. Did y'all
intro.
catch wind of that life-changing event over the weekend?
You mean the eclipse on Monday?
No, I meant, oh, damn it. You know, that was perfect. You gave me, like, the softball. I should have had something else lined up for the switcheroo, but I didn't have anything. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That was so good. But it was the...
So there was no life-changing
No,
event?
there was no joke.
There was no... I'm sorry. No, there was a life-changing eclipse, but there was no joke for me available to pull the switcheroo on you, is what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm sorry. I poorly worded that. Did you guys enjoy the eclipse? That's all I'm trying to say. That's all I'm asking.
Here.
Didn't do anything
Didn't
here.
see it?
Yeah,
Right.
we only got, I think, 63% coverage where I live, so it's still bright as hell.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not putting on glasses to see a 63% coverage.
But
Yeah, I woke up like 40 minutes after the best point, and then I like looked on the internet, and it was like, hey, here's a picture of the eclipse in Vancouver, and I was like, it's cool.
Yeah.
It didn't really miss too much, but that's cool.
The totality was pretty incredible, honestly. We we headed down near Salem, Oregon. That was right in the trajectory.
The witch trials.
No.
On
Is
the
that
old
Salem,
frontier.
Massachusetts?
Salem,
Yeah.
Massachusetts. Yeah.
Salem.
The old Oregon witch trials.
Just a little bit on the other side of the country there. That was dope, though, man. Like, that was something out of a video game where we experienced dusk within the course of 5 minutes, and then it was immediately succeeded with dawn, which was pretty dope.
That's how fast the whole thing was? 5 minutes?
Yeah, it's really short.
It was like, I think 2.5 minutes is the amount of time the totality happened. So yeah, it was pretty.
Did your body
rapid.
get confused for 2 minutes?
No,
Like, oh, it's bedtime.
he was such a smart boy. I'm so proud of him. He didn't need no dumb glasses. Like, as soon as the eclipse started, he was just like,
I think he might need the dumb glasses.
he doesn't need to wear them. He turned around. He was just staring the opposite direction. It's like he knew. It was like he knew what was going on. Anyway, we got a show for you today. We got plenty of stuff to talk about. Microsoft has broken their pre-order record with the Xbox One X, blowing our collective minds with that news this morning. Age of Empires 4 was just announced, which is a startling revelation for many fans of that series. Speaking of fans of series, many were disappointed, but also, I guess, kind of given a sweet, cathartic conclusion to a series that has been long left by the wayside. We'll talk more about that, the specifics as we get into it. Half-Life episode, or sorry, it was Half-Life 2, episode 3.
Episode 3. Yeah.
Plot reveal. The HTC Vive gets a $200 price cut, which I believe is permanent. I don't think that's just a special offer or anything. I'm pretty sure that's just a permanent $200 drop, so that's nice. We'll talk about HTC's business in the VR space as well moving forward. Final Fantasy 15 heading to PC, getting mod support, and they're asking you not to make nudes. So just, you know, respect their wishes, please. Nintendo's SNES Classic pre-orders have gone up and gone down, and everyone's pissed. And right, you know, they're right to be so. It's pretty ridiculous how it's all gone down this time as well. Brink is free to play. Weird story. Then,
Yeah!
Finally!
that's right. We've all been
If
waiting.
Evolve can't do it, Brink can.
I've been carrying that torch for years.
Enter the Gungeon, getting a new update, Advanced Gungeons and Dragons. Great name. Dragons with a U, by the way. You just gotta stay in the... Yeah, XCOM 2's new DLC coming in a few days. War of the Chosen, a.k.a. XCOM 3, packaged as DLC, apparently.
More or less.
And then we all checked out Absolver. the unique occurrence of us all enjoying a new game this week. So that's going to be fun to talk about too.
I beat it. It's not even out yet.
Yeah, Mathas and Nick both
Yeah.
freaking beat that thing. It's ridiculous. All right. Start off with, though, the Xbox One X. They broke... How? What? They broke their pre-order record. The Xbox One X has received more pre-orders than any previous Xbox console.
I know how.
How?
I honestly think you know how as well. You're just forgetting. Just think back to E3,
Yeah.
the Hovis method.
Oh.
You know what?
got
I'd
me.
forgotten. I'd suppressed it, but you're
The Hovis
right.
method.
The Hovis method. They just
That's it.
they unleashed their secret weapon, and we're all just powerless to its charms. Unfortunately, the Hovis method. Yeah.
Yeah.
Project Scorpio. I wish they called it that. The more I think about it, it's just such a cool name.
We got
Project
the Xbox,
Scorpio.
Xbox One, Xbox One S, Xbox One X. This is too many.
Are they going to have an
Scorpio in
Xbox One SX?
Right? Yeah, combine them.
Oh.
No, it's
I might
no,
have
it's-
SEX on my Xbox One X.
Nice, nice. It's
And
gonna
use the
be-
Hovis method to avoid getting my wife pregnant.
I was trying to think about it.
And I'm sorry.
No, there's an acronym
Well,
there. I'm
guess
sure it's
what's
like
not being monetized on YouTube.
the Hovis method, holding out of vagina under scrutiny. No, almost. There was something there. It's like, you know, the pull out, but like the hold out for the Hovis method. Yeah, they've broken their pre-order record. That's ridiculous.
I want
And-
to posit two theories.
Yeah.
Okay.
One, this only happened because population continues to grow on planet Earth. And as a result, there's more consumers available to pre-order. The other one, which I think is substantially less likely,
It's a hell
is
of
that
a theory.
we're all old and out of touch with what the average consumer actually wants.
We could be not old, but still out of touch.
Yeah, I like that one better.
It confuses
Whatever
me
else, sleep at night, Grandpa.
because for the longest
Yeah,
time,
thanks.
Xbox has been like, there's no games on Xbox. Why would anybody buy it? And for the most part, that held true. Nobody was buying the Xbox compared to the PS4. It's weird that this is suddenly getting. I'm trying to think, is there a game that was announced that people were just like, yes, I need an Xbox for this?
Yeah, dude. Like
I don't think so.
I'm racking my brain about it because
I wonder if they're marketing it as like, I don't know how they're marketing it, but are they marketing it as like a brand new console? Unlike the PS4 Pro, which is still the PS4, but with 4K capabilities.
Oh.
Mm.
They made a big fuss of this is the most powerful hardware architecture you can buy in a console.
This is the most powerful console ever made. That's like,
And I
they're
believe
harping
people
on that.
resonate to that idea.
So that makes it's basically the next console out of Microsoft. From what it sounds like they
Dude.
just like it failed. Xbox One failed.
Maybe
Let's-
people are right. Maybe PUBG has something to do with it. And it's not just me shoehorning it in, but Microsoft did that announcement with
Yeah.
Bluehole this week at Gamescom that was like, we're exclusive partners moving forwards. And, the game has sold like
8
almost
million
10
on
million
PC?
copies. Yeah, exactly. On PC. So maybe there is something to be said for the fact that people are like, I need to get an Xbox One X to play PUBG.
That's wild, if that's true.
Like,
I wouldn't put it past it. Like
I
like
wanted
you said,
to receive
almost-
it as a joke, but you're right. It's probably not a joke.
It's plausible, I think.
the further we get
It's-
into the lifespan of this game, the more things like that seem realistic. Like, looking at we talked about this obviously at length, but looking at the Steam stats still, it's one of 3 games with 6-digit numbers and concurrent players constantly on the entirety of Steam, Like,
I can't imagine playing that game with a controller though.
I can imagine playing it against other people who are
With the
using
con-
it's
controllers.
like Overwatch on console.
Yeah.
It's-
Cross-platform, please.
But I think like Overwatch,
I might win.
Overwatch makes sense because like not all of the abilities. I mean, like it's a little easier to have like auto aim correction, and like stuff
Yeah,
like
well,
that.
Mm.
in Overwatch, not only that, and not only are the abilities like a lot of the abilities wide-reaching, but the hitboxes on Overwatch are way bigger.
Yeah.
Way bigger.
yeah,
so
that's
accuracy
true.
is not nearly as important as something like PUBG, where
As a Hanzo main, I take issue with that, but I guess I'll allow
says
it.
the alt of a 2 dragons that just eat an entire screen.
Because
We
those
get hit by
arrows,
him anyway.
Yeah.
I think those arrows from Hanzo are about the size of a human head in the game's terms.
Yes.
But no, that honestly is a possibility. because that announcement did come out this week, and it's not like, you know, that is a direct correlation, but, you know, if kids start hearing the Xbox One X is the new place to play PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, that's the kind of hype that can drive those kind of sales right now, because it's the hot thing.
I mean,
I also think it's plausible that maybe they just, like, have more available for pre-order. Like, I'm not saying that... I would not be surprised if this broke the record, the record was, like, quote-unquote legitimate, but I also am like, come on. Like, the 360 was so outrageously selling, and it was the first console out to market in that last generation, so I sort of thought that would have an advantage, or the Xbox One would have an advantage because the 360 had such a large install base, even though the wind got taken out of their sails by, like, 2 pretty bad E3s and the guaranteed Xbox Connect that you couldn't avoid. But
honestly, I honestly hope that it does well. Like, I'd love to see competition ramp up again between PS4, because it's on both sides. Like, during the Xbox 360 phase, the 360 was head over heels way more popular than the PS3. Seems to have flipped for this one. I'd love to see them both be really popular, because we just win in the end if that's the case.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of all of us winning, that is sort of a good way to tie in the second part of this, which is that another announcement coming out of Köln. That's how you say that, right? That German Köln.
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we say Cologne, but you can say whatever you'd like. If it makes you feel better.
CD Projekt Red?
Yeah, fair enough.
Another story coming out of there. Apparently, an Xbox executive is confirming that Microsoft and Sony are in talks for more crossplay. So obviously, they've already started working on things like Minecraft, allowing people to crossplay within that game, but they want to expand it further. And, you know, this is like, we're sort of seeing another rebalancing of the scales, as far as, you know, like, now Xbox One X is hopefully going to be able to compete with the PS4 as well as the Switch, obviously helping Nintendo to enter back into that upper echelon of the big three. But it's interesting because alongside that, we're also seeing a lot more willingness to, like, you know, open up their doors and work with the other big names, you know? Like, things like, well, this is a weird example, but the Blue Hole and PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds with Xbox thing, there's the Sonic Mania being published on the Switch, which, if you think back 20 years, that sounds totally outrageous. And, you know, Rocket League has obviously opened up a lot of doors with crossplay, too. So it's interesting that as they are, you know, becoming more competitive again, they're also kind of simultaneously, like, working more with each other, the big three.
Well, whoever's in second will always have an incentive to let everybody play with everybody. But I can understand people who are like, Sony are being jerks about it because they're kind of playing coy or even blocking crossplay, saying it doesn't factor into their long-term plans. I'm kind of like, that's business. Like, they've got more consoles out there than anybody else right now, and I sort of don't see why they would play ball with Microsoft. You know, they're direct head-to-head competitors. I will accept that it would be good for gamers, obviously. And, like, maybe there's something to be said, and there's some inherent merit in, like, they should just do what consumers want. But at the same time, you know, I can totally understand why they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Look, if we can get Spider-Man in the MCU, we can get cross-play video game consoles.
But we need the Xbox One X or the, like, new Sony console, or the existing Sony console, I guess, to totally tank. We need the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but for video game hardware.
Right. That was the Wii U, though.
Yeah, but you can't cross-play, like, Switch. And, I mean, never mind. I guess you could, because Rocket League's out on the Switch.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder if they're going to do Rocket League crossplay or not. It's really random, but the fact that they have, like, the Nintendo-only cars.
Yeah.
I wonder if, like, those showing up in a Microsoft or whatever person playing, I wonder if they'd allow that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I did see that Samus car. It looked pretty sweet, except, you know, I'm not going to buy it again on Switch.
Well, yeah.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Right.
If
It's
you
a great
wait,
game.
like, 5 years, they will probably just have free Rocket League entirely supported by microtransactions. So just keep the console warm.
You have a different version of the future of Rocket League than I do. I'm hoping in 5 years we're all just in battle cars physically and, you know, having real life bouts.
I don't know. I think it's funny how things change. Like, Microsoft 3 or 4, well, I guess like 5 years ago at this point, was on stage at E3 going like, yeah, you need to like have the Kinect attached to the console. You need to be online to play all of your single player games. And if you have bad internet, just move. And then now
that's what the Xbox 360 is for, if you have bad internet.
Now they're like, gamers, we're on your side. We'd really like to do crossplay, but big bad Sony won't let us do it. And everyone's like, Sony, why are you being jerks?
Come on, guys. We were all friends before. Remember that video you made with Sean Layden? That was funny.
Their reasoning was pretty disingenuous, if you remember. The last time I saw them try and describe their reasoning, it was like, we don't want to have a different environment that we can't control.
Because Xbox gamers are like more lewd and like vulgar, so they don't want to contaminate the Sony community with the Xbox gamers.
Yeah. I would get it if Nintendo said that, but they're actually not saying that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that strikes me as disingenuous, personally.
All right. Well, anyway.
Cool. I'm glad it's going to... Hopefully it'll sell well. I'm down for competition.
Yeah, it's just... I don't know what to attribute it to. That's the most like baffling thing for me still. I'm still dwelling on this. Like, what made it sell so well?
Do you think it's 4K? Do you think it's people going, I have this new TV that I got last year and I got nothing cool to put on it? I finally have
something that I can use with it, right? Is that it? Like, have we just been waiting for this explosion of folks that...
Are 4K TVs that popular yet?
Is the consumer base, maybe the consumer base is now so primed that they will pre-order anything without even an incentive anymore.
Maybe.
We don't need a game. It's a new thing. We're just going to buy
it. Listen, that's me my whole life.
Yeah, let's pivot to the Nintendo conversation where pre-orders were open for 45 seconds and they sold, infinity copies.
Let's honestly do. Fuck it, because that works pretty well. And I was just about to say... that's a bit of a pot calling the kettle black because I did buy a Switch with no games on it. Like, I had a Switch, and then I bought Mario Kart, a game I already owned on the Wii U, and I just sort of fell prey to the hype machine that way because...
because it's the best game ever made.
Well, I mean...
You still play it every day?
No, but I play it maybe like... couple times a month, and every second of it I'm still like, this is joyful.
Dude, I didn't realize...
I mean, it is a joyful.
I threw shade at you because I thought that you just liked it because it was the easy version, because I didn't realize they have on by default that guided driving.
Yeah, you gotta turn that shit off day zero.
Yeah, obviously. As soon as I realized that it was a thing that you could toggle.
Did you also have, if you turn the Switch Joy-Cons, that the car turns for you?
No, is that another? I know they have like auto accelerate as well. You can basically not even have to play the game, right?
10 and 2, man.
It has 200cc, my dude.
Yeah,
it's the hardest Mario Kart they've ever made.
Bring it on. Anyway, that's right. The SNES pre-orders, they didn't go well, like we were hoping they would. But man.
I believe they went at 2-something in the morning, and they were gone in 20 minutes.
Right, yeah, and also there's a topic win down there. There we go. That's that. Well, let's even, like, dial it back before that, of course, because we recall back in, I think it was July, or maybe it was even a little later than that, Walmart opened up the pre-orders for, like, a week, and then ended up doubling back on that and saying, oh, sorry, that was a mistake. Right. And now we've gotten, like the official pre-orders have launched. This is through Best Buy, through Amazon, through Walmart, I believe now have just reopened them as well. And they're all gone, of course. So if you're, listening to this now, tough luck. But they just, the way they did it, I think the Amazon one went live at, like 3 in the morning Pacific time here?
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. I think Best Buy maybe followed suit shortly after that. Where's the love?
They're gonna have some apparently in stores for just walk-ins as well.
Okay.
GameStop has said that there will be walk-ins available right out the gate, and I think Target has also said the same thing. Right. You can walk in and get them on day one, obviously if you're early enough.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just pre-order only, at least. So if you haven't pre-ordered it, you still have a shot at getting one at a store.
Okay.
Which I think is way better than the NES Classic was.
That's a step up.
Some non-scalpers will get one.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's nice.
I feel like this is a broken record topic for us a bit too, of course, because, you know, with the NES Classic pre-order ridiculousness, and then just the way Nintendo has handled their inventory for consoles for like the last 4 or 5 years has been absurd. And you would think by now something would have changed. And I guess that little console, that offering is nice to be able to have at least units available in the store, but man, it goes back again to the question I asked myself, like, why don't they want everyone on planet Earth to buy this product? Besides the possibility of supply shortage.
Selling out immediately and having nothing on store shelves makes it look more attractive to everyone else, and then you can get investments based on how good your stock is sold out, which then you can roll back in later.
Okay, but, like, so there's the breakdown.
I don't think so, though, because it does it. I'm with Bear on, like, what's the end game? Like, the NES Classic, like, how many people that wanted an NES Classic ended up getting one? Like, a third or a quarter? Assuming they're making money on each machine, I don't see how they benefit from artificial exclusivity. Like,
I can't see how they're not making money. It's a freaking tiny-ass emulator in a plastic box.
That's also valid. I just think, like, it's more about, like, they treat it as like marketing instead of actually like distribution and manufacturing. They're like, well, you know, we'll just keep ourselves in the public eye by constantly having like something coming out, like even when there's a lull in Switch releases or 3DS or new Nintendo 3DS U, whatever the heck it's called at this point. But like they're just constantly keeping themselves like at the forefront by making this stuff, and then it gets talked about in the news all the time because of the fact that nobody can actually buy one.
There is always a story in there not being a thing you want to buy, isn't there? Yeah. If it's always readily available, it's just kind of yesterday's news. But if it's the thing that's ready to come out again, then there's something to talk about, and all the news articles get to run and give them free press. So maybe from an outward-facing perspective, that is probably more likely the case.
Indeed.
It's real annoying, though. I wish they would stop doing that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no perfect solution, I suppose, either to the, the perfect solution is let everybody get one and make enough, but I assume there's a reason that is not a possibility for them to just literally make enough for people to have them.
It's capitalism. They're min-maxing their opportunities.
Min-maxing.
Right? I mean, that's what capitalism's about. You take whatever opportunities you can get. They made one, and they're taking it.
Yeah, and like as cynical as it is, I think the idea of them like intentionally doing something to drive the stock price up is not entirely far-fetched either, so it's... Yeah, that's the world we live in, man, but it's just a bummer because at the end of the day, it ultimately means that scalpers will benefit the most from this entire ordeal, so...
Or, hear me out.
Oh.
Stop letting companies take advantage of you monetarily because you have nostalgia.
Dude, that's
not going to be a possibility, though.
I think it's a conceivable possibility.
We have entered prime nostalgia, dude. Like, it's actually kind of a weird... It's a weird theme of the show today, and also I feel like strongly in 2017 we have entered like peak nostalgia because this is a
people who were born
you're saying exactly
in the 1990s now have disposable income and can purchase things that
sell me my nostalgia, baby. Yeah. I'll do it. I don't care. It makes me happy. That's all I care about. What makes me not happy is not being able to buy those things.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why we become so peeved.
I don't mind someone selling me my nostalgia. That's fine.
It's not, no, I'm not against it either, is the thing. I'm just observing it now, especially because, like, it's Age of Empires 4 is another example. This is, like, a series that was popular back in the 90s, right, with these old RTS games, and then bringing that back. You got Sonic Mania. Everybody's loved the 2D Sonic games. Bring that back. You got
But the thing is, like, they're good
Crash
games.
Bandicoot.
That's all that matters. They're nostalgic, but they're also well-made.
Well, I don't know how good Crash was. I still haven't played it yet, but
apparently it's great. But
yeah, people are saying it's pretty nice.
But like, you don't need to own a SNES Classic.
I haven't played.
It's a nice opportunity for parents to show their kids what classic gaming was. I think is probably where a lot of it's coming from.
That's a good point too. Yeah.
But like, I also think part of it. I always put the blame back on the consumer in some way or another. I think they're falling victim to like this most transparent marketing tactic ever, which is the creation of the artificial scarcity. And then people are like, Even I was awake at like 2 a.m. I saw these tweets come in. Oh, pre-orders are about to come live. I was like, maybe I should get one. Worst case scenario, I could probably flip it on eBay for like $200, right?
Even you were thinking that.
Even then, I was like, I have no interest in playing it. And to be honest, I don't really want to buy one and flip it on eBay. You were
like maybe the last person I would ever expect to buy an SNES Mini and flip it on eBay.
You see this psychosis in like Battlegrounds. Now that they've introduced crates, people are like, I have to get at least the hot pants. I'm gonna hold it and like send my kid to college on that later. It's like amateur investment. Like everybody's like, oh, you know, supply and demand. You know, it's a product. It's a single product. It's not like it's not a commodity. At least not from the perspective of the consumer. Like
I just would want it for collection purposes. I just want to put it up on my shelf.
I'm telling you, here's how it's going to be like Action 52. Everybody, not that the games are as bad, obviously, but everyone who gets an SNES Classic is to plug it in and be like, oh, I played an hour of Super Mario World. Oh, I played like an hour of this game, an hour of this game, and then never again. And then it goes back into the box on the shelf.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I might be wrong.
You're not wrong about the back on the shelf thing, because honestly, like that's what happens. It really is.
I need it. I need to play an hour of Super Mario World on my TV.
There are a lot of really good games on that. So, I mean, there is the chance you'll pull it out every couple of years and beat one of them again. It's not a guaranteed death sentence, but you're mostly right.
That's going to tie in nicely to our Ask Roundtable question, actually, later on.
You ever, like, buy one of those little arcade ones that you plug into your cable box at the back of your TV?
My friend had a couple, yeah.
Yeah, you can play Pac-Man on your TV. It sucks. I'm not trying to say that Pac-Man's not a great game, but nobody's, $20, I can play Pac-Man on my TV. Unless you're 50 years old or like one of the people that is like on Twin Galaxies, you're not playing 80 hours of Pac-Man. You're going to play Pac-Man for like 30 minutes and be like, this is boring, and then put it away forever.
Yeah, I mean, functionally, though, there's a little more depth in some of those SNES games than Pac-Man.
I do agree with that.
Yeah, when you got things like Chrono Trigger in the mix, you got to kind of change your perspective.
It's like a 50-hour RPG.
And there's no other way to experience it.
No, there are many other ways.
And has not been for the last 23 years.
And I personally would not subscribe to buying one of these stupid things for any reason, because I have those other ways. And I still own the cartridges. But some people prefer the easy convenience factor.
Yeah, it is the convenience factor, isn't it? That's really all it is at this point. It's like
as well as buying into the imagery of a Nintendo product again and saying, look, here's the box. It's the pseudo-official version.
It's wicked convenient to wake up at 2:30 a.m.
Well, see, that part's not.
One of 4 SNES
That's why we're upset about it, is because they took away that one part of the convenience factor. And I think it is honestly like 95% of people that would want to play Chrono Trigger again just don't want to go through the hassle of downloading an emulator and getting all that
Chrono Trigger
shit
on the SNES Classic? This is an aside, but have they released like the library for it?
Yeah, the whole list is open. I don't know what. I can't remember if that particular game's on it.
SNES library. I feel like it was. Let's see. Where are you? Come on, somebody's got a simple list somewhere, don't they?
Okay.
There we go. We found it.
Super Mario World, Super Mario Kart, Link to the Past, F-Zero, Super Metroid. All right, they have Star Fox 2, the never before released, Street Fighter 2, Super Punch-Out, Castlevania 4, Donkey Kong Country, Mega Man X, Yoshi's Island, Star Fox, Kirby's Dream Course, Final Fantasy 3, Kirby Superstar, Super Mario RPG, Contra 3, The Alien Wars, Secret of Mana, Earthbound, and then I think it's Super Ghouls and Ghosts.
They don't have Chrono Trigger then. I was wrong. Huh.
I mean, like Final Fantasy 3 is.
Yeah.
I mean, Earthbound.
Similar.
There's some huge ones in there. I don't disagree.
All right.
Update: Nintendo promised it would produce significantly more SNES Classic Edition systems than NES Classic Edition units.
Yeah, I see
more
that.
on this later.
Oh shit. Womp womp. Okay. Anyway, yeah. Mini SNES is just it's a mess. But hopefully you can buy one at the door when they
you won't be able
to physically. Well, like I'm worried now that that's going to be like a Black Friday disaster, you know? Like everybody's going to be lining up and pouring down the doors of GameStop to pick up the Mini SNES.
If you really want one really badly, you do what Nintendo intends you to do, and you buy one from a scalper for $200 to $500 on eBay. Right? Yeah. Like otherwise they wouldn't have set up the system this way. This is what their goal was.
I guess so. All right.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Real quick.
Scalpers need to make money, man.
Yeah, they need to stop being scalpers.
I agree.
And be buskers. I just like that word, man. I was reminded of it yesterday.
Buskin' makes me feel good.
Age of Empires 4 has been announced. We're going to talk about this one briefly because we don't really know much about it, but it is a big deal, as it's, one of the
Hang on.
What's up?
Just pre-ordered an SNES Classic. Done.
What?
Oh, for real?
Yeah, they just opened up on Walmart. Got one.
Wait, just now?
No. We're feeding the cycle. We're feeding the cycle. Because I can see the gears turning. I have to check, and then
it says it's out of stock.
Checkout, I've got one.
It says it's out of stock. How did you get it?
They opened up. I saw Wario64 tweet it. I clicked it.
Just now?
Ordered it. Done.
During the show.
We're literally doing the show, and you're still looking at tweets about whether or not.
Well, I just saw it as chance that it popped up on my Twitter feed. I wasn't like scouring for it.
You're looking at your Twitter feed, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, why not?
Guilty.
Yeah, no, I'm
I'm
well aware of what these guys are up to.
I'm staring at your box faces on this screen right now.
That's your mistake, sir.
Tab browsing, dude.
That's all right. I can't
What do you
fucking
think this
believe
is,
you actually
2017?
got that. How did you... God.
I'll show you the confirmation.
Yeah,
it's
please.
done, baby.
You got it. Okay. Age of Empires 4. First, okay, you said it was StarCraft 2, but was that the last major RTS release? What would be...
It depends on, I guess, what you would describe Total War as.
What about Hearts of Iron?
See, I wouldn't consider... No, God, no. Hearts of Iron is like...
It's possible real-time strategy.
I mean...
It's like...
I would call Hearts of Iron... I would still call Hearts of Iron grand strategy, in my opinion.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you're still making
very,
the
very
dissemination.
deep.
All right, yeah.
And like, I think Total War is kind of an RTS. It's obviously got RTS elements, but it's more strategic, and there's elements of simulation going on top of, like, as an additional layer. Where if you're just looking for as like a pure RTS, level to level, build base, make army, kill bad guys, I think StarCraft 2 is probably the last one that came out.
Okay, all right. So that is the point of reference for this being quite the momentous thing. Not to mention the fact that Age of Empires, of course, is a very popular series from yore, I suppose. First 3 games sold quite well. That was the late 90s PC era, and it's finally coming back from the... I believe it's the same studio, right? Or is it...
Think so.
Kind of like... Let me see.
Hang on, I'll check.
Yeah.
Okay,
We got... The first series was made by Ensemble.
Yeah, this new one is by Relic.
Okay. But is Ensemble, like, around anymore? Did they maybe, like, get merged into Relic, or what happened there?
Ensemble is a video game developer.
Oh, Ensemble, yeah. Damn it, you got it before me. I thought it had me getting there before it was going to be faster. No,
Who would have thought the internet?
Yeah, no kidding.
The last game that Ensemble made was Halo Wars, and then they were closed. And it founded by previous members of Ensemble is Boss Fight Entertainment. Boss Fight Entertainment made Dungeon Boss for iOS and Android, released 2 Septembers ago.
There we go.
So they're doing...
Oh, and this is the Age of Mythology team as well. Of course, I should know that too. Yeah, so I played that. So
You talking about Ensemble? Yeah.
So I'm at least vaguely familiar.
Age of Empires 3 was not very good. That's kind of where the series died.
Age of Empires 3, slightly controversial opinion. I think it was worse at release than it's remembered now. Like, I was a big fan of AoE 2, and I owned AoE 3. And at the time, I remember being like, it's kind of a disappointment. But I think it's remembered more fondly now than it was then, because what came after it was like 6 years later, Age of Empires Online, where I played it, and I was like, I don't even understand. This isn't even like an RTS anymore. I have a Habbo Hotel style homeworld that I can upgrade via microtransactions, and there's like a pseudo persistent world that makes no sense. But AoE 2 though is still big-ish because of the relatively recent re-release on Steam like 3 years ago. So
okay.
Yeah.
And then Relic.
I used to think. Oh, go ahead.
Relic is the Company of Heroes / Warhammer 40,000 team.
Correct.
Yep.
One of the few game development studios left in Vancouver that is not making social or mobile games.
Nice.
They are making games for core gamers, would be the way that I would describe it.
It's almost the opposite. Matt,
It is fully the opposite.
What were you digging for in there?
I was looking for the
No, I was talking to Mathas.
Oh, okay, yeah, never mind.
What was I looking
He's physically digging for something. You were.
I was seeing what was in the box. That's all.
Wait, you don't know?
Well, this came in like a big old like 3 packages. Fans sent me to like fill up my bookshelf, and some of them didn't have everything. That one just has the CD. I don't care. That's cool.
Okay.
I used to think I loved RTSs, and I played StarCraft 2, like tried to play it competitively for a long time. But I think back, and I think I didn't like RTSs as much as I just enjoyed like this making bases and like the simulation aspect. I played a lot of Age of Empires 2. But the parts I remember about that is like building a nice town and going through the ages and making like, you know, nice little cities and stuff. Yeah.
They're fighting games for me at this point. Like, I might be able to muster the enthusiasm to play a single-player campaign of Age of Empires 3 because I'm kind of interested in history more than I am in whatever the StarCraft universe is doing. Yeah. But, like, online, never, ever will I play an online RTS ever again.
Honestly, there is a sense of stress that I cannot, like, really explain anytime I played StarCraft 2 and I'd hit find match.
Oh yeah,
and like
ladder anxiety.
Ladder anxiety. Exactly. That's what it is called. Like, just you sit there and because this game could determine like your next like points in your MMR, going to the next league or dropping or losing to a stupid cheese that you should have seen coming. And oh god, it was just so stressful every time you hit find match, and I was just panicking.
I don't know if I've ever gone down the rabbit hole of like how into competitive StarCraft you were.
I was Diamond, which is right below Masters.
So
I started at Bronze, and I worked my way up to Diamond, which went Bronze, Silver, Gold, Diamond, then Masters, and then Grandmasters with the top 200 players in the world. Yeah, I was Diamond. I was like a mid-tier Diamond player. I played that game. Like, that's pretty much all I played for a very, very long time.
I know that life, man.
That's actually how I got into YouTube. I wanted to cast StarCraft games because like that looks easy, so I tried it, and I'm like, I don't know this game at all, so I started playing it.
The origin story of MathasGames. Well, I mean, I found this thing. I thought that looks easy. I can do that.
Game with the highest skill ceiling on planet Earth.
Not StarCraft playing it. No. I played I adored the StarCraft series. And I watched a lot of professional StarCraft, but casting StarCraft looked easy. I thought I knew the game well enough to cast it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll cast some StarCraft. And then I was like, I don't know this game nearly as well. So I started playing it competitively as well as casting it, and then it just they both grew.
Right.
I played a lot of StarCraft. It was so stressful.
Anyway, yeah, Age of Empires 4. It's happening. It's a real thing. They got an official website and everything. So cool. Good fortune to y'all. Looking forward to that.
Hey, Microsoft. Just let them make it.
Right. Yeah.
Just let them make Age of Empires 4.
MSR Publishing, yeah.
Yeah, and then, you can, like, if it fails, you can shutter them or something. But don't try to ruin the game by making it Age of Empires Online again.
With crates!
You're not Zynga.
With crates.
Or at least this shouldn't be Zynga.
What would you put in Age of Empires crates? You get, like, foot soldiers and shit?
Peasants.
Yeah, pal, there you go.
So you start the game. Okay, so you start the game with only 2 different countries you can play as. That's it.
Okay.
Crates, 90% of the time, have like sprays you can put on the ground, like in StarCraft, or like different skins for the buildings or different skins for the peasants and stuff. But the rare or legendary loot is unlocking another country to play.
Yes, dude. No. Oh, this is brilliant.
Can you give the peasants different voices too?
Yeah, there'll be voice packs you can unlock in the crates and stuff.
What can we get to like the minutia, dude? Like, what can you unlock in a pack that is just like like a hair color or
armor shader?
Horse armor shader.
You can unlock like the retro voice packs from the older games that your characters will say.
That's good. Yeah. Then you don't even have to make any new stuff. You can just repurpose the old content.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
That's good. All right, there you go. Age of Empires 4. Man. So I was telling these guys, but what effectively feels like the nail in the coffin for Half-Life 3. Here it is. Marc Laidlaw, if you are unfamiliar with me, was a writer on the Half-Life series as well as a lead writer on Dota 2 over at Valve. He worked there for about 20 years and just left last year. And it looks like he has provided us what appears to be the Half-Life 2 Episode 3 plot summary. And it's very succinct. It's only like probably 8 or 9 paragraphs of, you know, very compressed text of all these events that were supposedly going to transpire within Half-Life 2 Episode 3. He's called it Epistle 3. If you're curious, listening right now, if you want to find it, it's marklaidlaw.com/epistle-3. It's really easy to get to.
When it's not down.
Right, yeah,
It's been down a lot today.
It's almost like people wanted this game.
Right, yeah, there's a little bit of a hype behind it. So, yeah, as I mentioned, this with this sort of information out from this kind of source, I think it's pretty safe to let me from 5 years ago just kill the hype and not have to worry about it anymore, because I've been hanging on to hope, man. I really have. I've had that little childlike wonder in me that says, you know what, Valve doesn't only care about money. They would still make this thing just to satisfy the desires of their player base and the fans they've built with this series for years, but that's a little bit of a wishful line of thinking, I think, on my
I believe it's been 10 years since Episode 2 came out.
God damn.
2007, I think, yeah, that sounds right.
They can't make Half-Life 3.
I don't disagree with
you.
No.
It's a lose-lose at this point for them.
You're right.
Are you kidding me? It would sell ridiculously well.
It would, but like the amount of hype that the internet has created for it is borderline impossible.
It's not Valve's fault. That's the fucking internet's fault.
But why would
Doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Why would they make it?
No, I don't disagree. Like they should,
because you want it. Exactly.
They shouldn't.
I'm not the only one. They'd make so much money off of the game.
But they don't have to.
Are we mad at them for making money on Steam, or are we mad at them for not making money on Half-Life 3?
They can make money on both.
Out just because people want it.
Make money on both.
They're already making money on Counter-Strike and Dota.
That is true. Yes,
they've got enough
ridiculous amount of money off of Dota and Counter-Strike.
Gaben's got enough money. He doesn't need any more.
They make a lot of money, man. More every time I think about it.
So are we mad at them for making money, or for not coming out with the product that you want to buy? I don't understand.
We're not upset at them for anything. We're just saying
Wait, you're the only one that sounds mad right now, by the way.
Well, I'm mad because everyone's like, there's an undercurrent of like, Valve's betraying us, and
No, I don't give a shit. They could have canceled it years ago. No, I don't care at all.
I have that desire in my heart to see this series come to completion. But that is, I realize at this point it is, as I mentioned, wishful thinking, and that it is not really a viable option for them as a business either. Because, like you said, it's a lose-lose, even though they would make assloads of cash. So, this is the next best thing.
We could all boycott Steam until they release it.
There we go. Oh, yeah.
Everybody in solidarity just never open Steam again.
I have no job.
Chat, you promise? You promise no more Steam, right? Because this is super important. No, even like...
And don't go back to the movie theater until they make the Jabba the Hutt prequel. Like, be careful what you wish for.
I think like halfway through that sentence, the chat may have already been filled with no's. I don't even need to read it. Yeah, but it is honestly like it's a really well-written epistle, and it's worth a read if you're a fan of the series, because he does a good job of providing a little bit of closure at least, although it does kind of end on a bit of a cliffhanger still. So there's that.
Valve stop making billions of dollars and do something original, like releasing the fourth, or what is it?
The third game in a series.
Well, it's, if you count Half-Life 1 and then like Blue Shift Opposing Force, like, why won't they release the 11th game in this franchise and do something original for once?
How many of those can you honestly count as like official Half-Life releases though? Because like half of them are mods, aren't they?
As far as I'm concerned, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, that's a Half-Life game.
Blue Shift and Opposing Forces were real.
Those were Valve releases?
Different stories of the same perspective through Black Mesa. You play as a Marine in Opposing Force, and you play as Barney in Blue Shift, the security guard. So it was actually kind of an innovative idea at the time.
Yeah.
And they just let it go. I'd heard actually that episodes 1 and 2 were intended to be Half-Life 3, and they just categorized it wrong. They meant, like, after the fact, after those were released, they said this should have been its own game.
Huh.
I guess presumably capping it with episode 3, but like either way, they shouldn't have been attached to the Half-Life 2 name.
Yeah.
So
that's weird.
kind of a nomenclature error in that case. I wonder if that would have shifted expectations if that was 3. At least it would have made a bit more sense that the engine didn't need to be revised 10 years later.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, episodes 1 and 2 look like this, and then episode 3 is like, oh, that's something else.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if they left the story at the same point they did, I don't know if the backlash would be any less. But
imagine if they came out with Half-Life 3 and it was like worse than Fallout 4, with this higher level of hype sustained for like 5 times as long.
Dude, that's like actually 10 times impossible.
They'd have to do like what freaking Fallout did, is like change it from a first-person shooter and turn Half-Life 3 into like a freaking walking simulator RPG or something. The problem with Fallout 4 is that it's not a bad game. It's a great open-world shooter exploration game. It's a bad RPG though, which is what Fallout has been since its inception.
I don't think they like are capable of making it bad. You know, if they made
though.
It's just they're Valve, man. They're upper echelon. I know it's a little bit fanboy of me to say that, but it's true. They are part of the, you know, like the Rockstar Blizzard kind of category of developers that really cannot put out a game that you would be considered bad, I imagine.
Well, except for the fact that the last thing they came out with was in like 2011.
But like the lab, even look at the lab. It's like
the lab is fine. Let's not go like the lab is not a masterpiece.
It's not a masterpiece, but it's like it's a perfect demonstration of the capabilities of their VR space, which is what I'm talking about. Like when they have a specific thing that they want to do, they do it extremely well, and they have an amazing track record of doing so. So I feel like they would have to make something at least decent.
6 years ago, I would be right there with you, but with like no confirmed projects that we've seen over the course of like the past 3 years, like.
Well, we have those 3 confirmed VR titles they're working on, but we don't know a lot about them.
Have we seen anything?
In
them? Like, I mean, again, I'm not that cynical about the lab, but the lab is like, you know, 90 minutes of content, and it's basically just like 4D WarioWare. They're like, there's one, hey, I'm on top of Mount Rainier, you know, like I could click my mouse and go over.
That's right there, by the way.
I guess there was more to that than I thought. I thought you like blow up balloons with your hands and then throw them in the air, and then it's like you're done.
That's the tutorial, I think.
Yeah, that's the tutorial.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I misunderstood that.
You never went through like all the other different areas of the lab. There's like the archery thing. There's like the.
Don't think I realized there was anything else to do. I was excited to go do something else, I guess, so I didn't pay attention.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mm-hmm.
That's true. They are making Artifact. I forgot about the CCG.
Oh, yeah, the card game.
This is how you know you can like never listen to me, because everyone's cynical about the CCG, and I'm like, who cares? I was making a game. I don't understand you people. They can never make anything bad. Hey, we're making a game. Boo! That's not what I wanted.
It's not. I would put money that Artifact's gonna be a good CCG. I'm just sick of CCGs.
Yeah,
there's too many of them.
I mean, you kind of like minimalized that down to its most childish complaint, but that is kind of like valid, isn't it? It's like, okay, you finally make a game, but that's definitely not the game we wanted you guys to make. It's just the one that makes the most money.
If Valve was on the verge of going out of business, I'd be like, dude, make Half-Life 3. You're gonna kill it. You're gonna knock it out of the park. If I was making $1 billion, and anytime I announced anything, people were like, well, it's not Half-Life 3. I'd be like, fuck you. I'm gonna keep doing this. People were like more, you know, gracious about it. I might consider it, I guess, but I don't know. Everyone's a baby, myself included.
I don't even know if like, I really do wonder how many people are still clamoring for it at this point. I'm pretty sure like the hype engine has died down. This was
all they have to do is say the right words, and all of a sudden the hype engine will be geared back up again. I know it.
Mm-hmm.
These people are lying in wait. They're out there.
Yeah.
They've got Half-Life 3 t-shirts that they don't even know where they got them. They just have them.
I promise we will see Half-Life 3 before we die.
You do you?
No.
Really?
Why?
I think
you don't want this. It's Indiana Jones 4.
Oh, God. Yeah, but it could also be Star Wars 7.
Right.
It could be Star Wars 8.
It could also be Star Wars 7.
Look at the overall scope of the Half-Life universe and like its contributions, and then go, why? Well, like, what do you have to gain here? It's a I guess, an interesting story for a lot of people. But primarily the big innovating force about Half-Life was that it sort of pushed forward narrative exposition in first person, and then they did it again with Half-Life 2 and introduced physics. There is no room for that same kind of innovation the third time around. So all you're left with is you got to tell a really goddamn good story. Mm-hmm. And if you're not into it for that, I don't see where they're going to get off other than it'll just be a passable first-person shooter at
and
best.
If that's the only thing you're banking on, you no longer have the guy that was a core component in making that first part of the story great in the form of Marc Laidlaw. So that's a bit of a handicap there, too.
Yeah, I don't begrudge them. They did. It was fantastic stuff that they brought to the first-person space as far as PC gaming goes. I just don't quite get the hype the same degree everybody else seems to.
I think like the hype was real in 2009, 2010, maybe a little bit after that. But now the hype is like a meme in and of itself.
Yeah.
There are people who are like, I can't wait for Half-Life 3, who were like born 2 years before Half-Life 2 came out. I'm not saying you can't enjoy games that are like older than you are, but at some point, you know, a lot of the people that are clamoring for this game are probably about the same age as the franchise or even younger. So I feel like it's half the meme, or even more than half the meme at this point.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think like the actual desire for it has subsided a bit and has now been replaced with just, remember how that was a thing? Whoops. Oh well.
The true ending to Half-Life was memes, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
As will be the endings of all of us individually.
Eli dies. Spoiler. Sorry.
Well, I wouldn't say he dies. He becomes that boy.
Yeah. Wait, what?
I don't know. I'm just making it up now.
All right. So there we go. There's that if you're interested in reading it. The HTC Vive drops $200 in price. Quite the appealing offer, I'd say, at this point. Still costly, but better. $200 reduction brings the HTC Vive headset down to $599, down from its starting point of $799. A lot of people speculated that this was a direct result of the price drop on the Oculus Rift. Of course, HTC was quick to refute that, saying, "No, that's not. No." But it's probably what it was. The other part of this is the fact that HTC may actually be struggling a little bit more than they let on as well. It doesn't have everything to do with the VR side of things, but the company did post a loss of $500 million last year, so not doing so great, and it seems as though they may be on the way out of the VR space, given how it's performed for them so far. I don't have the numbers on how that has done for them. I don't know if they're suffering the majority of their losses from that particular department. Maybe just the business overall is suffering, but if it sounds like they're on the way out, then this price drop may be indicative of the entire VR marketplace not being as strong as people like me are hoping that it is. So that's a little bit of a shame. Nick, you're not personally slighted by this anymore, I hope, right?
I can't see a way to be other than, well, it's still sort of a net negative for me if it means the whole of VR is going down.
Yeah.
So that Oculus that I was defending and holding on to this whole time, maybe it just won't be that useful after all. So I can still be upset in that way, but yeah, I hope it's not. I don't really think it is.
Mm-hmm. This is it's kind of just an expected move, I suppose, and they even kind of allude to that in their explanation of it in the description of this being, like about the time for them to bring the price down in the marketplace.
Yes.
And I think it'll be, like a little bit of a surge, but I am still fairly convinced at this point that we gotta bank on V2, because this is still pretty damn expensive for what is still not a very good sell just yet.
It's still like it has to get cheaper.
Yeah.
We knew it would happen eventually. Like, we all own it. Like, you ever watch a sci-fi movie and there's like a jump in time and you see the people go out in the first spacesuits and they're made out of like aluminum foil,
spray
paint? We're them right now. We got these headsets that have like a 2-inch diameter cable coming out of the back of your neck, and you're like, well, don't. By the way, if you ever like turn around more than 360 degrees, like the game is just not going to work, and you might accidentally asphyxiate yourself.
Like this shit it's gonna make its way into a museum in 25 years, and people are gonna laugh at like, how did
we paid like nearly $1,000 for that?
They paid $800 to put that thing on their heads. What is wrong?
And honestly, I will still stand by like that first month with VR was like a magical experience that I had never been able to replicate. I would love to play VR more, but it needs to be not only more affordable. The headset needs to be accessible, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's like 4 things that are in a vicious cycle. And let's even taking the hardware out, although I agree with you that in order to sell it to like normal people, they're going to need, I guess I'm calling us abnormal, but in order to sell it to people who aren't in the industry or like have a lot of disposable income and really care about it, they're going to need to have better games. But how do you get better games? Well, you need developers to actually invest in it and make like big ambitious projects. Why would they do that when only like, you know, the install base is under 1 million or something right now? So the best that they could possibly hope to sell is maybe like 50,000, and everybody's going to complain about it because you're going to have to price the game at like $85 just to like possibly conceivably hit your break even. Well, then you got to sell more copies of the hardware to begin with. So, you know, I think this is like, it's good that it's going to be cheaper. I think the ideal end game, or at least like mid game for VR, is like something like Sony VR comes out or PSVR comes out for PC, a couple $100, maybe $300, and then that somehow unexpectedly like kicks off a rush. And if that happens, then that's good. But for now, yeah, I mean, VR has been kind of dead for a while. Hopefully, it's because people bought in early and are now making good stuff under wraps, but who knows?
Like part of me, an optimistic part of me, honestly, thinks that's actually what's happening, because I like we said, we know Valve is really doing that, and they have obviously a lot of incentive to do that given their investment in VR. But I think like a lot of the big developers are getting underway to make those kind of things work, because I think they still anticipate that this trajectory is going to continue. And I anticipate it as well. I think this is a sign that they recognize the time has come to try to get out of early adopters and into the mass market. So it's going to be a much more approachable price here. $599 is not that far removed from the $499 of the Xbox One X that people are pre-ordering en masse right now. So it's kind of a... Yeah, and I know the caveat is like we're looking at a console versus the VR equipment that is, you know, not...
To play... You know,
to play Job Simulator.
Joe Game Dev's ping pong simulator.
You know, to play the music video "Chocolate," which Stegosaurus linked to me the other day, which was a fucking mind trip, which was great. Yeah, so you're right. Yeah, like it's still obviously a hard sell, but I did actually like. Man, I'm having to. When I didn't have the Vive, I told myself like, if I get one, I gotta make sure that I like at least make an attempt to use it semi-regularly, because I don't want to be the person that has a Vive, a VR headset fully operational in my house and just never uses it, and it sits in the corner gathering dust, because I'm like, God, it's like the pinnacle of technology available. It's in my house and I'm not using it. Why not? So
because you've played everything worth playing.
Exactly.
So far.
So I'm trying to find ways to make it to want to, you know, boot it back up and hop back in and try things still. So I went back in, you know, I'm going in, and I tried out the like they updated the home quite a bit actually, which I was very fond of. I like the kind of new futuristic thing they got going on. You kind of like have this modern looking block home up on a mountain that's overlooking a valley and stuff, and it's really pretty. And then you can like go to different environments within your home. You can play different games from the home screen, including ones that the community has made. So there's like kind of a weird like lobby hub system going on there where you can like connect with people, similar to, what was that game that I was talking about on the VR?
Rec Room?
Rec Room, right? Yeah, similar to Rec Room, where you can, you know, like connect to people that way. So that's neat, at least, and it's still, you know, like what's there is still fun, but it needs some love. It does need some love. It needs some.
We never played dodgeball together.
Yeah, we never did.
Why didn't we do that?
We should try it out. It does crossplay now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I tried to play the Star Trek VR game with a few other people for like videos and stuff, and it was supposed to be like one of the first crossplay VR things. Was that with TB? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So a couple of us had Vives, like him and I had a Vive. Nerdcube had a. TB was using his Oculus. Nerdcube used a Vive. I use a Vive. Me and Nerdcube could get in the same room, but TB couldn't get in the same room. So TB would be in a room by himself, and then random people would join his room, and it was just like a huge mess. Only Vive people could get with other Vive people. Only Oculus people could get other Oculus people, which completely ruined like the whole like this is a cross-platform VR game.
Right,
you can play with anybody who has an Oculus or whatever. It's stupid.
I'm hoping that like 12 months down the road, we're looking at announcements and/or upcoming releases for V2 hardware, and you know, have some. It would be so great if we could see that like coupled with big time announcements for game releases. You know, like maybe new IP in the VR space, or you know, like any of those Fallout 4 VR, Doom VR, any of that crap. You know, just kind of get the marketing and hype going again for what will hopefully be a much improved hardware experience. The thing's got to be like 80% lighter, I'd say, honestly, and I hope they can do that too. Like, I don't know how much of the weight of the actual headset is necessary. Well, obviously all of it right now. I'm sure they would have made it lighter if they could, but like I don't know like where they can reduce weight or make things a little more comfortable, I suppose. But
I wonder sometimes how much of it is a hardware problem, how much of it is a software problem, and how much of it is just a limitation of it being a niche product, right? Like it's a sub-specification within a larger class that's already part of a smaller class, right? You got PC gamers,
yeah,
and then you've got within that the group of them who are not apt to motion sickness and have an interest in this stuff. I just wonder if there's even enough install base like for this cycle to break, and I hope there is.
I hope so too. Yeah, it's a valid concern. You're not wrong. It's a niche still, but hopefully.
Well, imagine though that they figure out a way to make it 80% lighter, and it's just basically like a pair of glasses or something. It doesn't have any wires now. Is it being sexier and more accessible enough to make the people who are on the fence go for it then?
I genuinely believe so, because I think like if you can break through to the folks who would be interested in things like easily wearable things that aren't connected to any nonsense, and you can maybe like have shared experiences too. I imagine if you're able to reduce the weight considerably, you could have the idea of multiplayer with multiple headsets in the same room a lot more accessible. So I think like taking down those barriers honestly does make a pretty big difference in making it more appealing to the mass marketplace.
Do you think they should focus on making it look like a future product? I know that sounds like a silly question, but if it, like, given what the technology is, I almost feel like you have to emphasize that to make the people who aren't interested in it go, oh, it's that.
You think if we just put, like, LEDs on the front that bounce back and forth, that's all we need?
Not like a stupid thing, but, like, if you make it look like a sexy fucking visor, like you look like you're actually in the future, like Ryan looks right there.
I mean,
that's what I'm talking about. Now that's the definition of sexy.
It might help, but it would probably help to make it look a lot less doofy than it does right now, because the fucking little
it's
holes
like a
on
brick attached to your face.
Like, it looks so weird still, of course, and I don't know if there's really a way to make that look any better besides, just like you're saying, going all in with it and just going for the futuristic look.
The Geordie look, right? You want it to be like just this nice little elegant Cyclops eye. I don't know. I hope that we get to a point where we can get that as an option, because like you said, it is, it's maybe not the pinnacle of technology, but it's pretty goddamn wild to have something like that in your house.
And just not even care.
It feels bizarre to have it just sitting there not doing anything. It's like if you said, oh, you have teleportation now. So yeah, well, whatever.
I could
It's
just take
over
the
there.
bus.
Yeah, I'll just go outside. Who cares about
Who
that?
needs teleportation? It's so expensive.
Yo, but
I can just get
nobody's
in my car.
making teleportation roads. You can only teleport to like
nobody
a bad
has
restaurant.
Exactly. Nobody has the pods. It's like
Yeah.
you got the one in your house, but you can only go to the bus stop and then back to your house. You
If
gotta
the
wait for
choice is you could like drive anywhere, or you could only teleport to like, you know, a Hardee's. You probably teleport every day for like 2 months. Then you might be like, I'm sick of Hardee's.
Or like, no, it only brings you to like Alaska, and you got nothing to do in Alaska.
Yeah. I like the Hardee's analogy, mostly because I haven't had Hardee's in a while.
I don't know. I feel like there would be some utility for going to Hardee's.
You can get a lot out of Hardee's. It's not just food. Well,
It's a culture.
food,
It's right. It's a meeting
It's a
place.
lifestyle.
It's not
meeting
just
place.
food.
Hardee's. It's not just food.
Yeah.
This episode brought to you by no one. No, it's
Hardee's. It's not just food.
Final Fantasy 15 coming to PC.
Hardee's.
Hardee's.
It's not just food.
Oh, that's
different
the, like,
inflections, man.
that's the Arby's inflection. That's the where's the meat? We got the meat. Oh, Bear was talking
Hardee's.
about Final Fantasy. Sorry.
Hardee's.
It's not just food.
It's not just food. It changes, like every word makes it a different sentence if you emphasize it. Final Fantasy 15 will have Steam Workshop support and will run on older PCs. That's exciting. Clearly,
Yeah. I'm very surprised by that news that it will run on older PCs, considering the first specs I saw, it asked for a 1080.
Oh, really? No, I didn't see that.
I really didn't think they'd go the opposite direction that
Goodness. Yeah, no kidding. Well, lucky us that is no longer the case, I suppose. Was that maybe the recommended specs that you were seeing?
I don't know. I just saw them throwing that around like it was a casual thing. Like, oh yeah, you just obviously got a 1080 if you're running it on a PC.
He's talking about 60 FPS. Says the machine we've got here couldn't do that. You'd need a 1080 Ti, and even with
for
that,
4K apparently.
Oh, with native 4K, and even with that, 60
see,
frames is not.
I didn't
possible.
catch the 4K part. That's my bad.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Final Fantasy 15 coming to PC. They're looking at a timeline of sometime next year for the PC release. So clearly, spending a lot of time on it, actually, since the PS4 Final Fantasy 15 release was last December, so holy shit.
It's the Rockstar recommended amount of time to make sure you...
Right. And this is just funny to me that this is something that they've actually gone out and said. Well, I don't know if I can even find like the exact quote on it, but they have more or less asked their community to do them the solid of not creating nude mods for the Final Fantasy 15 characters, which
they said it's something about like it's up to your moral compass.
Yes,
they left it sort of ambiguous, so they didn't want to force your hand.
Right.
But
But
look,
like,
if you want anime tids, you can get your anime tids.
Tids.
All right?
you can get anime tids wherever you want, kids. That's
Tids.
the
Not gonna
law.
stop you. Listen, I got to skirt around that YouTube algorithm.
That's yeah. Thank you. No, I appreciate you keeping us monetized, man. You're looking out.
kids.
I want to see those anime tids.
I can't be the only person that's like, they just want you to make the nude mods so they can sell more copies of.
It does sound like it.
Go check out some photos from the Square booth at Tokyo Game Show and tell me that they're against using sex to sell the video game. Show me a screenshot of Cindy from literally 30 minutes into the game and tell me they don't want to use sex to sell their video game.
Yeah.
I think they're just like, they can't be like, make nude mods, but
Hey.
But they can be like, hey, don't make any.
Who needs to come out and say it ever? They're gonna exist no matter what game it is. It could be a purple dinosaur.
The more
game.
you
There's
talk
gonna
about
be
it, the
nude
more
mods.
I'm convinced that they are actually making an active effort to make sure those nude mods get created as soon as possible.
What do you think the inflection was when they said it? Don't make any nude mods.
Hardee's, don't make any nude mods.
Yeah, exactly.
don't make any nude mods.
Yeah, that's all that is, though. It's just funny that they went out of their way to say, let's use our good moral judgment, folks. Let's not.
There is no precedent for a Japanese company encouraging their players to sexually fantasize about the characters. It just doesn't happen. And honestly, like, if you think that, you're gross.
It's just gonna be 4 young adult buck-naked men taking a road trip across the country.
There's nothing sexual about that.
No, that's just
you Americans.
That's what friends do.
I thought we had plans to do
in
that
their
this year.
sexuality and their bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
and
had
I hope there's
Gladiolus's
also
body,
a mod that when Noctis summons a sword, it's actually just his dick that gets bigger.
Oh,
and he just
nice.
uses that.
I like that.
It's like Bayonetta with her hair, except it's his dick.
Right.
Yeah, it's basically exactly the same.
All right.
Cool. Well, there we go. That's Final Fantasy 15. Coming to the PC, bringing its, I like this phrasing, bringing its bro trip to the PC.
They use that word?
They use that word, bro trip. PC Gamer used that word.
Oh, PC Gamer. Okay.
Yeah. 6 years later, Brink is free to play. What the fuck?
This better be like a 30-second story.
It is.
Dude, I didn't expect to be so cynical about everything on the show. But I wanted to bring this up because my whole screed against this is like, hey, a game we didn't really like and would never play even if we'd owned it for the past 6 years is now free. Who cares?
I own it.
Yeah. How many times have you been compelled to play Brink in the past, 5 years? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I figured this would be a great time to remember. Oh, yeah, Brink. Remember Brink? Wow, Brink was weird.
It had a system that let you vault over the architecture, and that was sort of a good thing for it.
Yeah.
I mean, my memory of it was actually it wasn't that bad of a game. It just didn't gain traction and died out, and I don't think this will save it.
Brink was the Battleborn of 2011 because...
Brink came out at a time where multiplayer-only games were not the regular yet.
Yes.
And it was basically a multiplayer-only game.
It came out before Titanfall took all of its systems and made them better and also integrated into a game that was actually good.
And still failed.
Yeah, also true.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember it had sort of a presentation style similar to a slightly more serious TF2. Is that right?
Yeah.
The art style to it?
I wouldn't disagree with that assertion. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
so,
like
yeah, you're right. It has nothing to offer anymore.
They have kind of like a Watch Dogs 2 attitude with a lot of the characters, don't they, as well? Like, it's got like that really cyberpunk, we're rebels in the peak of technology, and we're gonna...
I thought they looked that way, but then when you see them in the game, they're just like kind of goofy.
Yeah? Oh.
It's fucking Brink.
It's fucking Brink. Hardee's,
bring this up
fucking Brink.
Only to head off future stories like this in the past, because I think that this could become like the new normal. Is like the game comes out, and then like 3 years later, they're like, well, you don't have to buy it for full price now. You can buy like the basic edition, and then there's like these cosmetic microtransactions. You want to buy heroes and stuff, and then like 6 years later, they're like the whole game's free, but we have like a rotating cache of heroes every week. It's just like the 3 stairs your game falls down as its multiplayer community dwindles to nothing is like...
Yeah,
it's a procedure, I guess.
It's formulaic now. No, you're not wrong. I mean, we've seen several examples of it now, and that was one of the other Ask Roundtable questions that we were considering a few weeks ago was the fact that the idea of buying a game for $60 is like an entirely new concept at this point because there's so many different considerations you have to make, like between whether it's early access, whether or not there's updates coming for it, whether or not it's still in active development, whether or not it's been ported well, all this different stuff depending on what the game is, and you gotta be wary, yo.
Well, let me tell you something. If you thought Brink wasn't up to the standards of 2011, I don't think waiting 6 years with almost no changes to it is going to do it any favors. Like,
yeah,
I do see, and I don't begrudge you. It's your time, and it is. I guess, is it nice? Is it nice or is it business of Bethesda to do this? I am of the opinion that it's good press for a game that's probably making them no money to begin with, but it's a nice gesture, I suppose, to some extent. There people are like, oh, I played it on launch, but I didn't really like it. I think I'll give it another shot. Well, you think you being older and more discerning and the industry going through all the advances it's gone through in the past 6 years and like the re-rise of PC gaming, like 1.5 new generations of consoles coming out, huge innovations in multiplayer gameplay. You know, you got this is from like a pre-Overwatch universe. Like this is closer to the release of the original release of Team Fortress 2 than it is to Overwatch right now.
And this is untouched by all that horrible stuff. It's beautiful and pure. That's what it is. It's 2011.
Yesterday it had a peak concurrent player base of 2,300.
That's actually not bad. I mean, it's fairly okay, but I'm pretty sure like.
But how fast is that gonna?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this is like a 0.1 Evolve Stage 2s.
Average play time of every player was around 9 minutes long.
9 minutes?
Oof. Yeah.
That's like barely one game.
Yeah.
It's like time to boot it up and find out how to enter the lobby and then realize you don't want to play it.
It's like probably smacks you over the face with 18 currencies in like a live shop. And everybody's like, nope, fuck that.
Like, is it monetized?
I was going to ask, actually, because since I bought the actual game, what happens to me? Do I then lose the rights to that game in favor of a new monetization scheme that pretends I didn't pay?
I don't want to open
that work?
I'm assuming that it's actually just free. Like,
let me have a look. Hold on, let me see.
I clicked on it. Let's find
just check it out on the store, man. Free to play Brink. Oh, this has been on Steam the whole time?
Yeah, it's just they changed Brink into free to play.
I didn't even know that. I thought they would just now put it out on Steam. But okay, I see. I'm not seeing any kind of microtransaction details. Only the DLC, obviously.
Maybe they're giving it like a month at step 1 before they realize step 2 is the only option. They have to begin the layoffs.
Well, I mean,
there's still people working at the
I was going to say,
that was a joke. That was a joke. I didn't.
You've been toiling away at keeping Brink working for 6 years.
It's going to come back, guys.
One dude and his cat.
It's the hypothetical that applies to all games in this position.
Yeah, I see. All right, well, anyway.
Wait, making Brink free to play didn't change the fact that this runs like an asthmatic hippo. I normally wouldn't compare this game to a free to play. Seeing as how this game is free now, I'm going to compare it to Dirty Bomb. Do yourself a favor. Download Dirty Bomb.
Dirty Bomb is actually, like, pretty okay.
I guess they're like, it runs at 15 FPS and barely goes above that.
Asthmatic Hippo, dude. That was great.
That's a good one.
I got to steal that. Cool. All right.
Brink, it's free.
It's free, yeah. Go for it if you feel like it. Gungeon!
Hooray!
Gungeon's getting an update. It's got a great name. Advanced Gungeons and Draguns.
Sweet. Ryan, just in time for you to go back, just like you promised your viewers.
I never promised I would go back to Gungeon.
I thought you said you did if it had a big update.
But yeah, that leaves me a lot of verbal wiggle room, doesn't it?
It does.
True.
Let me see if this falls under your threshold. This is the second major update for Enter the Gungeon. Advanced Gungeons and Dragons. It focuses on a lot of community-requested changes, quality of life, convenience features, hundreds of new and substantially more powerful synergies, a bunch of new guns and items, and getting revenge on the Gungeon's most hated resident, our new boss. Oh wait, is that an in-game boss, or are they talking about like their new boss at Dodge Roll?
I can imagine it's an in-game boss.
They have to get revenge on their new boss at Dodge Roll?
Yeah, that's the phrasing sort of seems that way. Yeah, anyway, this big new update for End of the Gungeon coming up. It looks like they are projecting this fall, so pretty quick.
They said a small chunk of it in September, but then more later to come, so probably in November, if I were to guess. They said this is the update to look for if you were someone who was more interested in more accessibility, which actually I hate to admit it, but that might be me. So I'm excited for this, especially if there's more synergies. They also said this will put the game at like they've now implemented everything they wanted. This is the finished iteration of Gungeon the way they intended it to be.
You didn't feel it was... I want to go back to that accessibility comment. What did you feel?
No, I don't mean it in any kind of pejorative way. I don't fault them for it. I just don't think I was good enough at it. So for me personally, I think this will help me. That's all.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I'll probably come back to it, I think, for this one. I didn't check out a lot of the supply roll update, but I did play a bit of it at PAX, and I was just like, okay, this is, it's more guns, more or less, for Gungeon, which it's not exactly the most enticing drawback, but I will probably check this one out. if it's what they call the definitive version, seems like it'd probably be worth it to go back and see what they've got.
Dude, Guns didn't do it for you in Gungeon?
I know, yeah. If that's not going to do it, I don't know what will.
The problem with Gungeon for me was just like the lack of like synergies. Like it just wasn't. I don't want to say it wasn't fun because it was a fun game. The game was well made, but I like what at the time I was also really into Isaac, and I'm like, there's no argument that Gungeon played mechanically much better than Isaac does, but the fun, like crazy crap that could happen in Isaac was missing in Gungeon, and so every run kind of felt samey in Gungeon for me. I was like, you're always looking for the same guns. You don't have any like crazy things that could happen in your run. It was always very kind of run-of-the-mill every single run.
It's more mechanics focused rather than emergent gameplay focused, and I sort of just saw that as a difference between the two, not to really take points off this way.
It hampers it when it comes to replayability, though.
Yeah,
because like when you're like every run in Gungeon is like an hour long, and like there's almost no chance that I create kind of like a unique run. All I'm waiting for is like roll the dice, hope I get a good gun and enough ammo to use it. But I think I've heard that in Supply Drop they alleviated that concern a little bit, and I know that Dodge Roll has gotten that criticism a lot. It seems like getting more synergies into the game based on the press release is something that they're really going for here. But
yeah.
I mean that's positive. I wish there's a couple of things that would make Gungeon like eternally replayable for me. One is like making it 20% shorter every run. Oh, God, especially the secret floor is like the secret floor. It has the Isaac thing where it's like it's a secret, but it's actually part of the way you have to do the run forever, or people will make fun of you. And then the other thing is like more ammo drops, because there is so much of like, hey, I got this great gun. I can't wait for 3 floors from now when I can justify using it because like I might not get any ammo drops at all.
Yeah,
so
I agree. There's nothing worse than being really excited about all the awesome guns you could be using but can't because you don't have ammo.
Yes.
And
there's sometimes like
default.
It does happen in Isaac too, but you could basically like have a great gun and then on floor 6 you're like, or I forget how the floor breakdown goes, but on the forge you could use that gun and be like, okay, I'm ready for the bonus floor. You go down to the bonus floor and run out of ammunition, and you're just like, well, now I have my starter pistol and I'm basically either doomed or just kind of bored.
Yeah.
Did you guys feel, I think you've kind of alluded to this, but the game seemed a lot like it was less dependent on giving you an interesting combination of things, and you know, you're just getting one item that defines like the entire run, which can happen in Isaac every now and then because there are the items that are like super OP. But Gungeon for the most part is I feel defined by that, because you need something good to like get you through it, right? Unless you're just depending on using the pea shooter all the way through.
Depends on how well versed you are in the language of the game. Because there's a few factors, right? Like if you can dodge extremely well, you can get away with very little. But if barring that, you've got to be kind of creative in how you build a run, and a lot of that creativity comes from having a lot of experience in what your options are from moment to moment. Yeah. And what I mean by that is like knowing when to get secret rooms, knowing how to play any of those the gambling games, or knowing the best item to take out of a choice of 3. Like all of that learned experiential stuff lets you get away with being worse at the game mechanically. But even still, I think it's sort of diminishing returns. Like the best option is just get a really good gun.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, anyway, Advanced Gungeons and Draguns. It is slated for release, as I mentioned, this fall. So looking forward to that this year. Should be fun. Hey, Mathas, tell me all about XCOM 2 War of the Chosen.
Oh, okay. So get ready, because I'm going to be talking about this for a lot for a minute here. So XCOM 2 War of the Chosen is the new expansion pack for XCOM 2. In 5 or 6 days. It'll be $40 when it comes out. And when they were talking about it, they said this expansion almost became just XCOM 3 flat out. And after spending some time with it, I am surprised it didn't. The game, there is not an aspect of XCOM 2 that has not been changed, at the very least substantially, if not completely drastically, with how the game plays. There's so many new systems. The story is changed and fleshed out. There's added cutscenes, there's added bits, and the game is it's a totally different experience than it was when you played XCOM 2 originally. XCOM 2 vanilla, you knew the path that you had to follow throughout the game to get to the end. You could do it. the replayability wasn't as big as it is now in War of the Chosen. So some of the things they added into the game as far as gameplay mechanics are concerned are the following. One, your soldiers that go out with one another can form bonds with one another now. And if they go out on missions and have formed a bond, they can give them, the people who they're bonded with, tactical advantages. So for an example, Nick bonded with another soldier in my current squad, and now when they're on the same mission together, if they're decently close to each other, they can give each other one free bonus action during that mission, which can save them a lot of stuff. They've also introduced basically what they are called as the Chosen. There are 3 super soldiers, I guess, of the alien army that are hunting you down throughout the whole campaign, and they can show up randomly throughout missions.
Oh, that's cool.
They all look and sound the same. Like, not looking at them, they all look and sound different, but in each playthrough they're always the same character models. The difference is they borrow from the Nemesis system of the Lord of the Rings Shadow of Mordor game, where every time they fight you, they walk away and they come back and they'll have new strengths and weaknesses to their character. So it'll zoom in on them in like Shadow of Mordor, and it'll show their strengths, like they don't trigger Overwatch and they can move extra fast or whatever. And their weaknesses are like they're susceptible to explosions and from the Reaper class. They also can just straight up come up to one of your soldiers in melee, knock him out, and kidnap him, and then just leave the mission with your soldier kidnapped. And they will learn things from your soldier that they kidnapped to give them more advantages on the next fight that they have with you.
Snap.
Yeah, it's pretty. And then you have to go out and have like a whole rescue mission to try and save that particular soldier if you want. The overworld map has been added a ton of new mechanics, including something called sit reps, where you can send out your soldiers on missions that you don't actually participate in, but they send your soldiers away for a few days, and they can gain you bonuses. Your soldiers can get kidnapped, they can die. There's the world map is constantly throwing things at you now. There's very little downtime, which kind of feels panicky in the beginning, but once you understand the flow of the game, it's there's a lot of depth there, sending off people on sit reps, dealing with the Avatar project, trying to wonder when the next attack from one of the Chosen is going to be. You also now have 3 separate resistance factions that you kind of have to court at the same time, all of them providing unique and special soldiers that you can recruit into your team. And those guys you have to go and save during missions, and now when you go and save a resistance camp, they're not just sitting there cowering and dying basically to aliens, they're fighting back and attacking the aliens and actually joining you in the fight, which is kind of cool. But you have to manage the relationship between the 3 different resistance camps and make sure that they're all happy with one another and happy with you. And you get bonuses for that as well. On top of all the new classes that they've added, skill points and stuff that I think is from different DLCs, the different ending cutscenes, different ending bosses as far as I understand, a challenge mode where you can kind of like do a leaderboard stuff. There's just, and this is only like kind of like tip of the iceberg stuff. This is me trying to quickly go through some of the more important changes in the game. It's a drastically different game. It's 100% different. And if you have DLC, what they do is they take all that DLC, and instead of giving it to you the way it would have if you just had the DLC, they integrate it into the expansion pack and pace it in a way that makes it feel like it's part of the game and not just like a DLC bonus that you ended up picking up.
That's great.
There's a lot. The game is I'm back into it. And for like XCOM 1, I never actually played Enemy Within expansion. I just kind of ignored it. But this is it's totally different. It might as well be XCOM 3. It's awesome.
How many missions do... Let me rephrase. On what percentage of missions do the DLC changes actually manifest in a meaningful way? Because there's like they have the Alien Hunters DLC right now, and basically the way that works is like 20 missions in, you'll get like a little bit of intel, and they're like, "Watch out, there might be a snake on this one."
So you're like saying, when do the Chosen show up?
Yeah, is it like, because the way that, I know you said you didn't play it, but the way that Enemy Within went, it was basically just like it fit on top of Enemy Unknown, and every mission had like not just story stuff, but like the mechanic stuff made fairly considerable changes to the game.
To me, it feels like they took XCOM 2 War of the Chosen and merged it with old XCOM 2. Like it doesn't feel like it sits on top of it now. It just feels like it's all part of the same system. I think playing War of the Chosen like is the way to play the game at this point. I don't know how to explain it. Like when as far as like the Chosen showing up, like the Chosen are mandatory story things now. Like you cannot play the game and ignore them. You have to eventually kill them and get rid of them, and they're a whole separate thing to manage. Every aspect of the game, and I mean that, every aspect from the world map to the missions is touched by War of the Chosen in some way. Whether it be minorly from having bonds, whether it be majorly to having the Chosen show up, or whole new mission types where you have to fight like new enemies called the Lost, which are kind of zombie-like enemies. Everything is touched in some way by the expansion pack. It's not.
You can't just have a map that's just like, oh, I know this map from XCOM 2, and everything goes the way it normally does without the expansion.
You will get maps that you've recognized or seen in the past, but there will be an aspect of it, whether it be your soldiers or the enemies themselves, that is altered in some way by War of the Chosen itself. And a lot of that has to do with sit reps as well. That can dictate how certain missions go. I don't know. It feels. It's a totally different game. It does not feel like the XCOM that I beat a year ago. It feels wildly different.
How many new hairstyles does it add?
I don't know, because the copy they gave me all the DLC with it, and so
oh man,
I don't know.
Okay, how many hairstyles are there with all the DLC?
A lot. Like a lot.
That's probably the best news you could have given me, aside from railguns. Wait, there's already railguns, aren't there?
Yeah, I think there's already railguns.
Yeah,
there's new weapons, new classes and stuff. There's not any. It doesn't just. I guess it doesn't feel like you're following one path to the end of the game like it did in XCOM 2. Now it feels like there's a bunch of different ways to beat it, and every time it's different, which is what I loved about the way back in the original.
Oh, the classes. Did you already talk about that? How they branch? Is there?
So yeah, but I haven't gotten it so ability points are in the game, but I don't know if that's War of the Chosen or DLC that I never played. I have no idea. But every class now, not only do they have their regular skill trees that you choose from, but every class also, or every person also has ability points that they gain every mission that you can spend in a talent tree that can go, and you can kind of customize them that way. And the new separate 3 classes are also customizable in their own unique way on top of that. It's crazy.
Okay, I'm a little confused, but thumbs up anyway.
There's a lot. There's a lot. It's a ton.
Man, that is.
It's hard to explain. It's literally hard to explain in like under 5 minutes.
Yeah,
it's like an entire game on top, mixed in with an old game that was already robust and deep, and took like 40 hours to play through. So
I hope it doesn't break all the Shrek mods.
Well, they did recommend turning off your mods when playing the game, just because.
See, that's never mind. I don't want it anymore.
Right, well,
basically, if you liked XCOM 2, this only makes, in my opinion, XCOM 2 a much better game.
I like Shrexcom more.
I mean, I can understand that.
All right, sweet. That is coming around in 3 days. It's $40, and of course, you do have to have XCOM 2 to play it.
Unfortunately, Mario X Rabbids Kingdom Battle also comes out in 3 days, and it's the XCOM killer. So
that's true.
Do you think you're gonna? Funny.
That is weird that they.
I know I asked this off camera, Ryan, but do you think you're gonna? Revisit XCOM at all? Even off camera?
Probably not.
Okay.
Like I can't put. I don't feel compelled to put 40 hours into like a campaign-driven game off camera, and I don't want to do XCOM on camera again, because like I've already done like 8 different XCOM series over the years. It just like they never stop. I'm happy because I really like them, but like they never stop coming out with XCOM content. So at some point, I just got to be like,
slit its throat. Moving on.
Yeah, he's got to slit your throat every now and then.
How many times do you have to play XCOM?
I haven't played it once yet, so I should probably play it.
Dude, Bear. You should get on Bear's ass. It's basically just 3D Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah, no, I've heard that too. So
play it at least with the mentality of Iron Man mode. I wouldn't necessarily recommend playing actual Iron Man mode, but don't like reload every time you lose somebody, because that's just part of the game.
Who, me? No, never.
Yeah, I do think you would love it, actually. It does have a lot of Darkest Dungeon qualities.
I've heard as much, yeah. So I probably owe it to myself. This seems like an ideal time to dive in, so maybe.
Dive.
All right, dope. War of the Chosen, $40. Sorry, don't let me mislead you. August 28th is the release date there. And finally, goodness, Didn't expect the show to go on this long before we got to this point. Absolver.
Our docket is like literally 10 pages long.
Yeah.
Like if you could go, they spam it in chat.
It looks like the docket looks a lot meatier than I actually thought it was, but yeah, there we go. Anybody want to take the reins here with Absolver?
Go for it, Nick.
Me?
Sure. Yeah, I think you got the most experience, right?
I got like 10 hours, I guess. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
All right. Absolver is I almost want to say first person. That's not first person at all. It's a third person if we're going to give it a camera classification. Third person open world fighting game, Dark Souls-ish invasion based, not MMO.
Dark Souls plus For Honor plus Journey equals Absolver.
Well, it's difficult to explain, but there is a quality that referencing Dark Souls is actually useful for in this particular case, and that is that the player transience has this kind of nebulous quality. People show up and they vanish, and they'll hang out with you for a while and they'll leave, and they just show up and fight you sometimes, or other times they befriend you.
It's the Steam back of the box description. Absolver is a game with nebulous player instances. It's the
nebulous player transience.
Yes,
get it right.
Defining characteristic.
Well, it's useful for the fact that it's kind of putting you in setting the stage for what kind of a game it is. That it's not necessarily a lonesome experience, but it's not necessarily an MMO either. It's somewhere in between. And the goal is you start out the game as a prospect, where you're essentially a student of martial arts of some kind. You get to choose from 3 different choices as far as like your martial arts style. You customize a character, and then you explore the world, going to assassinate these marked fellows that you get a tombstone with a bunch of marks on where they are. You basically just wander around, fight everybody you see, and level up your character. It has a couple of really unique elements to it, and probably the coolest thing about it is when you block, you actually absorb any moves that you don't know. You sort of learn them little by little. And every hit that you take when you block it will increase a little bar until you've eventually unlocked that move as a move you can now equip and use for yourself. So you build your own move lists, essentially, from the characters that you fight and how you choose to fight them. And after a while, you unlock more move slots, and you can actually customize your own combos. Gives you 4 different stances to choose from that you can switch between during combat. There's actually weapons as well. I think there's maybe 3 you run into in the wild, and then there's a couple that you unlock from beating bosses. And essentially, after you've worked your way through the whole thing, you eventually fight all of those major characters. You then eventually become an Absolver, and you have the ability to teach people as well as engage in PvP, which, well, that was an option you had the whole time, but it is then kind of encouraged because you kind of run out of PvE material.
Yeah.
So we'll touch on that. But anyway, my experience was mostly positive. The combat system is satisfyingly deep. It's not the deepest thing I've ever played, but it feels like Dead or Alive kind of style fighting. The graphics are quite pretty. The soundtrack is low-key. It's not the most like present soundtrack I've ever seen, but I liked what I heard of it. It was mostly ambience. The gameplay is not really confusing or overly elaborate. It's just enough that gets you into it and you kind of play for a while, and it lets you just kind of relax and fight everybody. So that was my takeaway. Generally positive.
Yeah.
I think Absolver is the most recent game where I had a very roller coaster ride with this thing. I was pretty excited for it. I started playing it and I fell in love with it. And then towards the middle, I started being like, well, it's a pretty good game. I like it a lot. And then I beat it and I was like, oh, that's it. And then now I'm kind of like at this like low point where I feel like they spent a good, the 2 years it's been in development, really fine-tuning this combat system, which is really, really good. But they neglected to put much content for you to do outside of it. Like, the game goes by fast. The world is actually not that big. It's confusing, but once you understand the lay of the land, it's pretty quick to get around. Yeah. And then you beat it, and you can go back in to beat up other players and go for gear if you want, but the gear isn't like Diablo gear where it drastically changes how you play the game or how powerful you are. It's just kind of aesthetic for the most part. I mean, I beat the game I took my time in 6 hours, and I'm done with it. And that was me taking time to just go fight players randomly and just not really pursue the quote-unquote story modes. I feel like the game could have done a good another year in development just at spending a year making content for the game, because it feels like a very shallow kind of experience once you finished it.
Yeah, I completely agree, actually. As much as I said it's a positive experience, I was kind of just rating it on what content there was. If I was going based on what I wish it had, yeah, it feels like when you finish the game, that's when the game is just getting started, which is kind of frustrating. You just graduate to the highest class in the game, and they're like, oh, well, fight other players, I guess, if you want.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I've had a similar experience with it. I don't have nearly as many hours as you guys do. I've only got, I think, 2 or 3 right now. But I like the combat enough to recommend the game still, but I absolutely echo the sentiments that you have put forward, which are that it's a little shallow at the moment, and I wish that it just had more time in the oven, because it's a little rough around the edges, both in terms of the presentation. I feel it's it just, the world is pretty, but it doesn't have a lot of life to it. You know what I'm saying?
I'm with you 100% there.
You can walk through it, and none of the areas are really all that particularly endearing. Yeah. There's not a lot of specific noteworthy landmarks or even animals or anything like that. There's nothing giving it
it's
a breathed, lived-in sense. Yeah, it's dead almost.
And it has camera issues too sometimes.
Also true. But
yeah,
I really like the fighting. I think that they're not getting as much credit as I would give them personally for completely designing their own nuanced fighting system. The whole thing that they have about building your own combat deck and then learning moves from enemies by blocking them or dodging them and then not dying to them in combat is a really cool way.
Yeah, I agree.
To kind of gate progress, even if it is eventually at some point you're it's a little gimmicky, and I wish that if I blocked your attack twice, you just unlocked it for me instead of having to sit there for a minute and just keep blocking the same attack over and over. But I do feel like you that somewhat ironically the world is a little soulless. That for the start I was like, hey, cool, you walk into places and there's hollows around, and it's Dark Souls. And then after a while you're like, well, okay, it's a new area. I walk 4 steps and I get 3v1 by the AI, and then I walk 8 steps and I get 3v1 by the AI, and now I'm lost, and I walk 2 steps and I get 3v1 by the AI. I'm more interested in taking on the the 1v1 PvP stuff, but I'm kind of waiting for it to be out so I can style on noobs instead of playing against media who have already beaten the game before it's even out yet.
Enjoy that Rocket League heyday until the meta catches up to you.
But I really did, after about an hour or 2 of the single player, I was kind of just like, I don't want to fight 3 dudes over and over and over.
But that's the entire game.
I know. I want to fight one person again and again. So I actually get the. Yeah, I mean, basically, I want to play the PvP in For Honor instead of the single player where you're just. For Honor is different in a different. It's worse in a different way in that you run across AI and they're meaningless because if you tap quick attack, you just chop all their heads off in one swing.
Right.
But, I don't think the strength of the game is in going 3v1 AI against humans. Not because I lose, but because I spend time. Half my time is spent blocking, and I never really feel like I was able to get into that 1v1 mind games plus the fluidity of the combat that they designed themselves, except when it was 1v1.
Well, I have to interject and say that you can mostly play the whole game as PvP. You unlock all your items, you unlock XP, all your upgrades and stuff can come from just doing fights against other people. So if that's what floats your boat, I think you may be in a better position than someone who'd prefer PvE material, honestly.
You can start with a level 0 and level up through the PvP mode.
If the instance matching works properly with your character, yeah. So you if you run into somebody who's too hard, you're just going to keep losing. But you'll still get
combat trials, or walking into the world and finding a human being?
No, combat trials. Okay. Yeah, you rest at one of those little runes, and you can go there, and you'll just fight people 1v1 and get XP the whole time.
That's more cool.
I almost wonder.
Appeals to me.
I almost wonder if the game would have been better off ripping out all of the NPCs completely and having it be more of a Shadow of the Colossus style game where it's only boss fights that you explore the world and follow to, and along the way the only people you run into are other players. And you can fight them, and you could get some sweet experience by fighting them, or gear that only players obviously would drop, but there's no NPCs from point A to point B to the boss, and they're just all really cool martial arts fights that you have along the way.
How would you do the transmutation of fight moves then? Like, who gets the first move to pass on to people by blocking? Because that whole system would kind of fall apart without the...
Well, I mean, I guess the only way I could think, again, just off the top of my head, is that when you pick a school, you get every move associated with that school, period.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And to get other moves, you have to go out of your way to fight players to get those moves.
That's kind of how it works now, actually, yeah. Like what Ryan was saying earlier, where you block and like that frustrated you took too long, if you join a school, you just get moves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of their way around that being slow farming.
Oh, that's right,
kind of
because
stuff.
like you join the school and then the master of the school allows you to use his combat deck, right? And then you get to just borrow those moves, technically, I guess.
And you can be a master yourself, actually. So if you make a unique combat deck, you can pass that to other people.
It's interesting though, because like at the end, like the last hour or two of the game, I just pulled like lion strats and just skipped every NPC.
Well, after a while, like why fight these three?
Yeah, that's exactly
same
how
AI over and over.
Like I just watched
and
it
it gets
fall off a
obnoxious
bridge.
too, because when I can take on 2 AI pretty much no problem. The minute it crosses into 3, it gets almost unbearable.
It
Because
gets clumsy. It
gets clumsy. The camera angle, when you lock onto something, the camera angle like snaps into such a way where it's almost cinematic, where it's close up on your character and you're focusing on that one person. So the other 2 AI that are still fighting, you can still attack them almost like a Batman style, where if you point the joystick in a direction, you'll attack them.
Yeah.
But they can cluster around you and make dodging near impossible, and they're just all wailing on you until your stamina breaks, and then you just start taking hits.
Yeah, like for all the criticism that something like Hand of Fate gets, I'm not going to say that the combat works better, because the combat in Absolver is 10 times more interesting than it is in Hand of Fate. However, if you're going to throw, 3 enemies at you at a time, having a button that literally is like God mode dodging makes sense, because it allows you to chain those cool combos together. Whereas in Absolver, you get like halfway into your infinite combo, and then like 2 dudes throw attacks at you that make it essentially impossible to dodge both of them. And as a result, you just kind of, maybe the more skill you get at the game, you'd feel differently. But I was like, I'd single one out and I'd like 2-tap him, and then I'd go back to blocking him. Then I'd wait for like their quick attacks to come in, and then I'd 2-tap the same guy.
Yeah.
And eventually he would die. And then when I killed 2 of them and I only had 1 guy left, I would be like, now the game begins. I can do like some cool stuff now.
The mechanism control-wise that they use to switch between one character and another, if I'm remembering correctly, it was like hold right trigger.
Hold right
and then
bumper, right?
Right bumper,
then
the
flick left stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awful.
It's kind of awkward in the middle of combat to do two buttons like that. I don't know why that's the preference.
Yeah.
I wish I could redo that.
It's super clumsy, and the game relies so heavily on you being able to just watch your enemies and study their moves and know when a move is coming, especially when you play the Kung Fu style, which is the one I use.
Yeah.
I don't use block as much, I use dodge. So I need to see their wind-up coming. So I can't be fiddling with other things or looking around. I need to focus on seeing when their attacks are coming in so I can move.
They don't use they don't use D-pad for anything, do they? Why don't they just put it on the D-pad?
Yeah, no, they do.
Oh, the
powers.
that's right, yeah.
Every direction actually has something.
That's the thing. That's the reason they can't, or at least it would be hard to change the targeting.
Yeah.
It's because the right stick does your special move or your dodge or your parry, and then like all the face buttons are spoken for, the D-pad spoken for.
Is the back
if you
button?
hold right trigger and then use the right stick, it changes your stance, and then like
left triggers block.
Right,
Oh yeah, back
left-
button does the
no, left-
editing of your combat deck and all that
Emotes.
shit.
One of them is emotes.
That's LB.
left
I
bumper
think.
is the
Bumper.
emote wheel.
Yeah. I switched that to right stick press. I don't know. The controls felt like there was too many controls sometimes.
Yeah.
You kind of
The
cram it
game
into
is-
a controller. You got some complex mechanics going on. So yeah.
The game is absolutely like, you have moments where like this is amazing, and
Yes.
like it's the 1v1 boss fights. The last boss fight is great. I actually adored the final boss fight because it felt like it was a test of skill, not a test of this is a hard boss for the sake of being a hard boss. And then 1v1 player battles is the other one where the game absolutely shines. Everything else should be stripped out and ripped away and made useless. Even the little mound of rocks with loot are so pointless because they give you the same loot they like freaking NPCs drop. They're just not useful.
Sort of shoehorned in there, right? Like I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Where this if you look at this as simply a 1v1 PvP game, you're going to have a great time because, like, that is where the game is at its best. But if you're taking all, like, the sum of its parts into consideration, you have to look at a lot of these things and be like, I mean, it's not really all that enjoyable when you have to, you know, like, grind, like Ryan said. Like, it's a novel concept, sure, to have the combat deck unlocks proceed via combat, but it's, you know, when put into practice is not really nearly as engaging as the actual PvP experiences. But I guess you have to consider, like, well, without that part, then you don't really have the progression of leveling, and then you don't really have a lot of incentive to continue to play. But I feel like the incentive to continue to play should just be, it's really, really fun to do 1v1 PvP in this.
I mean, that's the thing in the end, is that I think Absolver, even if I don't think it succeeds 100%, particularly I think it's kind of, the single-player campaign is, like, a little overly ambitious, might be. Like, it's
overly simplistic.
Well, I just think it's like they were clearly very inspired by Dark Souls.
Yeah.
So they kind of made, like, what feels like a Dark Souls vertical slice or something like that. But it doesn't necessarily work well because the encounters are not... The 3v1 encounters, 2v1 encounters are not quite as satisfying when they happen all the time as a 1v1 would be. I almost think that, like, what would benefit it would be almost making it like Fury or something like that, where every level is just like multi-stage boss fights against highly curated bosses. But I think that at least I give them, like, some kudos for trying. And we've talked mostly about the negatives, but I think that the combat system is really intricate and elegantly designed.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really cool. And they didn't just make, like, hey, it's like you press X and you do the same exact combo over and over that everybody else is doing. Like, you can kind of have your own combat identity and style that is semi-unique to you at the very least.
Yeah, there's a good deal of nuance to the combat as well. You have to pay attention to very specific things, cues from specific attacks. You have to know what things can, like, break guard and or create other sort of status effects. So there's a lot to consider.
And the effects are really kind of cool too. Like, they're very subtle, but like when you summon a sword and stuff, just the effect of the sword coming or putting it away, and you're like kind of, they call it folding, I think, is really neat. I like it. It might sound rude or reductive, but I would love to see this combat system, like, in another game entirely.
Really?
Like, just take what they've built and put it in something else. Either that, like I said, kind of Shadow of the Colossus style boss fight only style game. Or people have said 1,000 times in the comments, this would be such a cool combat system in Jade Empire 2 if they ever made one. Like, they've made an awesome, really deep combat system that is in a kind of poorly thought out, thin game. That needs more.
I didn't even think about that. That's definitely an apt comparison to Jade Empire there. That would be really interesting to combine those two. Although you're making me think now to put it in some sort of Shadow of the Colossus-esque boss rush, like, this world, like I was mentioning, it's not interesting enough or engaging enough, I feel, on its own to strip more out of it and keep it compelling enough to proceed through, right? When you beat the game, like, the final, it's not a spoiler really, like, all the guy says is like, all right, you come out of because you get teleported into this world and you come out of it, and he's like, all right, go back into the world and train, we'll call you when it's time. And then that's it. And I'm like, that's the end of the game? Like, that's literally a line you say at the end of a prequel leading into the actual game. Yeah.
Like, what do you mean now it's time? That was all just a training session for the actual game that's not actually there?
I think what we were meant to read that as is you've finished the tutorial, you're now ready for PvP because this is actually a 1v1 PvP game.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the identity crisis is what's bothering us in different ways. I wanted it to be sort of an exploration adventure, and it sort of tickled the very beginnings of that. But like you said, the world is not the most in-depth or substantive. As you walk around, you realize there's about 5 areas, all of which are made up of about 3 paths that go in a circle. And I mean, that's cool, but like, it doesn't go anywhere really other than to the other zones.
They all look
and once you figure out how to leave them,
don't they?
They what?
They all look kind of samey to me. I don't know if you
got the zones. Yeah. No, the zones are pretty different.
You think so?
Yeah, I feel like they're distinct.
Like 3
they're
distinct
just shallow.
Zones. Yeah, they're just shallow.
Okay.
Yeah. And then some of us wanted it to be primarily a fighting game, and I mean, I wanted the fighting game, but like wrapped in an adventure.
Yeah.
And then all of those things, the way they hit into each other, it's like we all kind of wanted different stuff, but the thing that ties them together is the fighting. So, like, how do you please everybody with that situation? It's like a master of all trades, or jack of all trades, master of none situation, where they've kind of gone really light on a bunch of different dynamics, but not really focused in as much on anything but the fighting.
Yeah.
I also can't tell, not to keep harping on this game, but I also can't tell how the difficulty is determined, because there are times where I go fight a marked one and he has like 3 ads, and then I die, and then I go back and all of a sudden he only has 1, and then he has none, and then he has 2. It doesn't make any sense.
I think what happens is, since the world is instance based on your level, probably someone joined quickly into your area, pulled those 2 mobs out, and then despawned.
Oh.
And then now you're, or it could be a bug, because I've also had 2 instances of a boss at once, because like that mob respawned when it was still there.
And those are the kinds of things that I want this to be a game with a AAA level polish, and not to, you know, diminish the work that they've put in this as an indie team, but you can see it's got an indie feel to it, you know? Like it feels like the kind of game that would tremendously benefit from a hyper focus on what's good, and then just, you know, like make that as good as it can possibly be. And that's not really what we've gotten. We got some rough around the edges, like you said, jack of all trades, kind of trying to touch on every base sort of experience.
Also, what's up with the inventory? Like, you get all these items through the course of the game, and by the end, sometimes you have 3 or 4 of the same item, but there's nothing you could do with them, so they just take up slots.
Can you
it's not like you could sell them or drop them.
If you beat a player, I thought you got some of their loot. That's not the case.
I think so. I think you just get XP or something.
Yeah, that's all you get. Ugh.
So there's just sort of like, there's this half-baked inventory system where they seem to want you to have loot that you're excited about, but most of it is worse than what you have on. And then you just get 6 or 8 of the same thing, and they'll just kind of sit there until you're done with the game. I don't know. I feel like those items were meant to go somewhere or do something. And ultimately, what are you going to do with all this, like, kind of vendor trash that there's no vendor for?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
As like, I get
the... Go ahead, please. No, go ahead.
The Karns, like, the point of them was, like you said, they didn't seem like they belonged there. The point of them is to lead you around the level design. There just isn't enough level design to make it feel meaningful. And the items in the Karns, except for the masks, because there are a couple masks, are just loot you get everywhere, really.
Yeah. Just wait to get to the tower, Ryan, if you end up beating the game, because there was a point where I was getting 5v1'd, and I just needed to run. I just needed to just run by everything.
Just bring a co-op, buddy.
Yeah, you bring a friend. That's the best way. Or just do what I did and just skip everything, go to the boss. Just run up the tower and ignore it all. Which I was like, well, I mean, it sucks because I'm not exploring what's possibly in this tower, but at the same time, if I turn around and I go to fight something, it's going to be at least a 3v1 and multiple times 5v1.
I will say I did have a pleasant 10 to 15 minutes of a guy randomly waving me down, and we went and beat up a bunch of NPCs together, and then he disappeared. That was one of those.
My first day was met with a guy who was completely outgeared and just kept beating the hell out of me.
Yeah, I kind of wondered about that as well. Like,
and you can't. That was another thing. You can't turn down a resurrection. So if they bring,
they can just keep rezzing you. Oh, I didn't know that. They can just keep bringing
you up, and you can hold A to respawn. But if he's right there, he's gonna resurrect you every time. And that kept happening. The dude would just style on me.
You can disable the online though if you really want.
But that removes the good part of the game.
Like the thing that was even the hour that I played on the NLSS before I put in, the hour I put in on a Tuesday before the NLSS, I was kind of like, I'm pretty sick of the loop of like, hey, I don't know who you are, so I'm going to beat you up, and then you resurrect me, and now we're friends. I was like, can we just, like, I'm trying to make progress. Can we skip the part where we fight each other and then party up? Can we just either party up or ignore each other? Like, I get that it was really cool the first time. I was like, this is an awesome way to do co-op in the game, because it's kind of pseudo-adversarial. But by the third or fourth time it happened, I was like, I get it. You know, you kicked my ass, and now we're gonna go, you know, style on the boss. But like, do we have to?
A very simple mechanic of deny the resurrection would make the griefing so much less problematic. Because the fact that I was just getting beat to a pulp by this guy who just knew the system on my first day.
You just couldn't run?
And he chased me. Yeah. Like, he would just chase me down. So I was like, and he was faster than me. So I was like, all right, whatever. So I'm going to fight this guy. And he just dude just had an infinite combo where he never ran out of stamina. I'd die, and then he would immediately res me back up, and you can't turn it down. I'd get back up, and then he'd be like, beat me down again, and then get me back up, and then beat me down again. I'm like, I had to quit. I was like, screw this. I'm like, this is stupid. This is a waste.
That's Absolver, everybody. You can get it on Oxygen.
Despite all of that, I still had a good time with it. Yeah. And I wish it was longer, but I don't think you should necessarily discount the game for not being 30 hours long if that's not what they aspired to create, right? So
yes. No, I do genuinely believe that, like, at its heart, and like from the developer's perspective, they want this to be a PvP centric experience. Like the NPCs, the whole story thing, I think is like a subset to ideally the PvP player base.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so despite the flaws and minor shortcomings, it's really not... I don't think it's a discounting issue. I don't think it's worth, like, totally pushing the game off the table or anything. You just got to know what you're getting into when you buy it is all. And, if those things are okay, maybe watch a few minutes of it, see if the combat looks like fun to you. If it looks satisfying, it's probably worth your money.
Indeed. There we go.
I enjoyed it.
Comes out in 3 days. It's going to be $30. 10% off if you get it before the 29th. Alrighty. It's going to take us into everybody's favorite segment. It's time for Ask Roundtable. Ask Roundtable is the weekly segment where you send your questions into roundtableyt@gmail.com. We do our best to answer them. This week's question comes from... That's not the right one. Uh-oh. Hold on. It's not from Jerry. I got to save this. Well, I'm going to do this live on the show because I have a new question right here that I failed to save. There it is. And ready? It's here. Done. Beautiful. Corey asks, have you ever went to replay a game you love or have nostalgic memories of but just couldn't commit to playing it? Maybe it was due to the game not holding up, or perhaps it just wasn't as fun or amazing as the memories of playing it before led you to believe. Says he's a big fan. Thanks, Corey. Appreciate it, man. What do you have the rose-tinted glasses on for? This is like I alluded to. This is very fitting for our
game in the PS1
today.
era ever.
Yeah,
except for Symphony of the Night.
I've never played it.
That holds up fine, I think.
I tried to play Final Fantasy VII when I worked at the radio station during college, and I did not have the greatest experience in the world with it. I realized very quickly that, like, we don't have nearly the patience for RPGs or pacing or what, like, the staples of those games from the 90s used to be. Like, that goes so slow, man. It just crawls along. It takes forever. It's like 100 hours or something just to get through everything you want to do. And, I mean, I know that's still, like, you got games like that still, but when you're also talking about, like, those 90s turn-based battles and the of the text going across the screen is not exactly the most engaging entertainment prospect anymore.
Sometimes they have the little number scale that's like 1 through 7 for text speed, and even if you set it at the highest one, it's still like, come on.
Yeah.
Speed it up a little bit.
Any specifics you guys? I don't know if you guys have really felt the nostalgia.
A game I tried to go
recently.
back. It's not even that old of a game. Well, it's old now, I guess, but the game doesn't hold up nearly as well as actually Mass Effect 1.
Oh, yeah.
Mass Effect 1 does not hold up as well as I remember holding up. I went to try playing it like a year ago, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is like a tech demo to what was to come. Like, this game is not smooth. It's kind of ugly. It doesn't
driving the Mako around. Or the yeah, it's
also like 8 hours long. Like
it is super short. You're right.
That's what threw me for a loop when I played it on the subscriber stream. I was like, it feels like it's sort of just getting started, and then they're like, "We'll see you next time on Mass Effect." It's like a 12-hour RPG. I didn't even know that like BioWare made those.
Yeah.
I really thought I was far into it, but it's like I didn't have any clue that it was that short. I had gotten stuck in one of those Mako driving sequences, and there was rockets shooting at me, and where the save was, I couldn't win or leave. So my save was just screwed, and I just said, I'm never playing this again, I guess.
How does
I guess my pick for one of these things would be Shadow of the Colossus. When I went back to it in the remake, I was assuming that the younger version of myself was just impatient, and all the flaws that I had with it were just like, I don't know, I didn't give it a chance or something. And I struggled through it, and I tried to not let it interrupt me as much as possible, but the game has serious problems, like with the controls and with the camera. Again, I still think it's the greatest potential for any remake possible, and that's why I'm giving it all of my confidence for the remake that's still to come. But the remaster, the one that came out on PS3, was not a defining success, unfortunately, in my opinion.
I know it does. It's got issues. How does Fallout 3 hold up for you, Ryan?
It's honestly like fine.
Yeah.
It's ugly, but
it is. It's so like brown and yellow.
Green.
Yeah, it's just
Very
like
green.
it is ugly. And I get that sometimes I'm like, this game's ugly. People are like, oh, nuclear bomb went off.
No.
Okay, well, yeah, you got it. So are we arguing now that this is realistic? Because that dude is a zombie and he's talking to me. So the real problem with Fallout 3 is that it still crashes like crazy.
Oh, really? That's
because I mean, but when I say still, I mean like
9 years later
it crashes like crazy. Yeah, because it's not their fault that Windows 10 is out.
Right.
I am kind of the opinion that, like, you know, there's a warning before you buy it on Steam, but I don't think the warning necessarily does the experience justice so far. But I digress.
Sweet.
Do you like the New Vegas better so far or Fallout 3?
I like New Vegas better so far. Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
I agree with your opinion on that.
Thank you, Corey, for the question. Appreciate it. If you got a question, send it on over. roundtableyt@gmail.com. We'll do our best to answer them. That's going to take us on everybody's favorite segment. After that favorite segment, it's next Weird Games. We got a request from last week. Let me see if I can remember who it was, actually, that sent this in. I think it was, you know what? I'm going to search it. So we can do that. It was Matt. Matt, thank you very much for the Nick's Weird Games theme song request of Fight for Your Right to Partay by the Beastie Boys. You got this?
All right, Matt, I gave this one a lot of love. Are you ready?
I'm ready for it.
You gotta guess the weirdest of Nick's games.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
That's it.
That's it. That's fine.
Done.
That's great.
Yay, you did it.
I'm okay with
I'm
that,
totally
really.
fine with that, dude. You gotta have the succinct ones every now and then. That's good. Nick's Weird Games.
Yeah.
Episode 100, though, Bohemian Rhapsody from start to finish.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
That's like the whole show.
I'm going to match Ryan's very succinct song lead-in with a very succinct few lines of hint here. So close your chats,
All right.
and we'll get right down to business.
Yes.
Let's get
This is the weekly segment wherein Nick grabs a weird game from his collection of weird games, and we try to guess what it is based on clues.
You got it. All right. We're talking about a PS3, 360, and Windows game. Came out in 2009.
Ooh, I might know.
Developed by Asobo Studio, published by Codemasters.
Okay.
This is
Pandora's Box game. Legend, whatever it's
no, and no.
Damn it.
This is a single-player and multiplayer racing game.
It's Toka Race Car Driver. Pro Race Car Driver.
That's a good one, but I actually didn't own a copy of that, but I know that one.
F1 Mini Stars.
Let me just give you the last bit. I just need like one more sentence and you'll be good.
It's dirt.
No. That's not even that weird. Open world racing game set in a Mad Max-like post-apocalyptic world ravaged by extreme weather fueled by global warming.
Oh,
yeah.
Wait, no, it's called...
No, I know this game. I know this game.
Do it.
I
can see the cover.
Fuel?
What did you just say?
Is it Fuel?
Yeah, it's Fuel. That's what it is.
It's
You are
Fuel.
correct.
Hey, all
There,
right.
got it.
Post-apocalyptica, that's right. I thought I heard you say the word, but you must have just been saying it as part of the description. But yeah, there it is. Fuel.
Wait, you're saying I gave you the word?
You said fueled, and I was like, oh, that's the game.
Oh, it's probably... I thought I just gave it away again. I did that once, like 2 years ago. All right, good job.
I remember that
you got
one.
it. I actually love this game. It's real bad, but it's massive is the thing. You could drive for like an hour and not see the whole continent. It's freaking huge.
Nice.
It's got 14,000 square kilometers for whatever that's worth. It's pretty large, right?
Yeah.
75 vehicles, online multiplayer, 70 career races, 190 challenges. And basically, you map out the whole continent like you would an Assassin's Creed game, but it's racing instead.
I wonder how that's one holds up.
I think it probably looks like shit now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna Google. I mean, not Google, YouTube.
It's okay. It's a 2009 game.
It was extremely shallow, like graphically, but it was fun anyway because I just love this landscape being so big.
Sweet. There we go.
Fuel.
Cool. All right. Man, we got okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, all of a sudden, we have wrapped up episode 99 of Roundtable Live. Wow, thank you for joining us. Wowie kazowie. So we won't be here next week, nor will we be here the week following that. We're going to have episode 100 go live Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific, on the 15th of September. That is our current plan. We're going to take a little break here, and then I like actually the way that Nick put it. We're going to begin season 2 of Roundtable. We just concluded season 1, which was 99 episodes long.
Yeah.
Somehow I'm still here, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I haven't managed to fire him yet, but maybe we can set that new goal. So yeah, that's the plan right now. We will be back after PAX West on the 15th of September for episode 100. Same time, same place here, twitch.tv/Roundtable Podcast. Anticipate that we'll have some new stuff going on, but I'm sure the show at its core will stay basically the same. So look forward to more of our goofy nonsense for your Friday afternoon entertainment. And of course, just thank you very much for allowing us to do the show for 99 and soon to be 100 episodes. That is really awesome. Yes. So thank you all for continuing.
Massive thanks to everybody for watching.
For watching and supporting the show is really cool. So thank you for letting us do this. And we do want to say in particular a big thanks to those of you supporting it over on patreon.com/roundtable as well. Big shout out to those of you at that $20 tier and above, which include Julian Appelsgards, Jonathan Graham, Scrotty119, Ricky Grist, James Peed, Peter Sudison, Ellis Spice, John Kalchik, O Thomas Games BR, Jakar Sampson with a dance number, Kolnar, Sihoa. I do it wrong every time. I'm so sorry. Jamie Tinsley, Joseph Boss, Penn Gillette, Michael Bush Larson, Talks to Wall, TJ Majesty, Chaos, We've Known Each Other for So Long, Theorist. Did he, I hope he did, but did he line it up so that the song finishes on episode 100? He might not have. What line is he on? We've known each other for so long. I don't know. I hope he did it. Colby Klein, Greenlight, Oren Saltzman, Eric Schooley, Brizzle Britt, Positron, Mythscara, Mediocrities, Justin, Smurfette, and Logan Ray. Thank you guys 100 times over, in fact, for continuing your support here on patreon.com/roundtable. And thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you in a few weeks, back on September 15th here on twitch.tv/roundtable podcast for episode 100. Woo! We'll see you then.
Later.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
So, I apply.